What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
4 Saw. Chapter 61 Aizen fuses complete Hogyoku, Chen gets all Bankai. What I want to become is also the god of this world. It's just that I won't be the wedge that stabilizes this world. Quote. Aizen Sosuke smiled softly, as if Chen's words had been expected by him, and said, I knew that people like you would never succumb to that kind of spiritual king. You and I will become gods in this world. But there is no room for two gods in the same world. I am afraid that there will be a battle between you and me, a battle of two gods. Chen smiled, and there was a crisp sound, and the chess piece in his hand fell on the chessboard. Although the sound was silent, in such a quiet environment with only the sound of wind and snow, it seemed like a break. Like a pebble on the quiet water, there was no fear on his face, but a faint smile. I'm also looking forward to fighting you. Between you and me, who is the final choice for the world? Chen and Aizen Sosuke stared into each other's eyes, the wind and snow drifting between them. Whirring. Amidst the roar of the wind, there seemed to be an invisible edge between the two people looking at each other, and there was an understanding that ordinary people could not understand. Then Chen continued. I have to say, you do represent justice. Get justice for the common people of this world and liquidate the crimes committed by the noble ancestors. Yamamoto has his justice, Urahara Kazuki has his justice, Yuwatch has Yuwatch's justice, and you have your justice. Everyone has a different sense of justice. Some people can bear the sacrifices on the way to achieving great justice, while others cannot bear it. You know that your path will not be understood by the world, but you still move forward without confusion. This is also your charm. It cannot be said that you are necessarily righteous. Yamamoto Genryu Sai Shigekuni and Urahara Kazuki must be corrupt. If some people in my hometown were to answer, I'm afraid some people would say, I don't hate the nobility, I just hate that I am not a clan-fearing worker. People are all like this. Taking a step back, Tusen Kanami wants to save such a spiritual king and hates the sins committed by the nobles. So, does the spirit king want you to save it? Is that the meaning of his existence as a wedge that stabilizes the world? Sacrifice yourself, spread your power to the three realms, and benefit all living beings. Is this the great righteousness in the heart of the spirit king? In the eyes of the spirit king, the five nobles are just people born with his power. The secret of the South years ago is the story of 10 groups of sons fishing for kites. Is the spirit king happy as a father? Or sad? Woolen cloth. Aizen Sosuke's face twitched. The secrets of 10,000 years ago, the sins of the nobility, the decadent soul society, how could such a serious matter become a story about a son stabbing his father, in Chen's mouth? Chen continued. However, these are just speculations now. After all, no one knows the true thoughts of the spirit king. Maybe there is some backup plan, and maybe he will be resurrected when the time comes. For me, it is a good order to be able to balance humans, hollows and Shinigami with the three-world system of the real world, soul society, and Hueco Mundo. Although there may be some problems, there is no need to break it. So I probably won't agree with the justice on Yuwatch's side. As for your justice, Chen paused. In my eyes, you are an idealist. Aizen Sosuke held the chess piece in his hand and said with a smile, it's interesting, let's talk about it. To put it into detail, your demands are nothing more than two. The first thing is to be an unfettered king yourself, instead of the shameful human pig that the spirit king is now, and you are not willing to give into something like that. There's no problem with that. But if it were me, I would not choose to kill the spirit king, but would let him continue to exist as a wedge to stabilize the three realms. After all, there must be something that exists. If you ask me to stabilize the three realms, I won't be willing to do such troublesome things. And what about myself? I call it God. He is a more powerful being than the spirit king. He has the greatest power in the world. Anyone who dares to disobey will be killed and reincarnated. Quote. But I don't know how to manage the world. After all, that kind of thing is too troublesome. I only make decisions on some big things. Then there must be someone to manage the world. That person is my assistant, similar to a secretary. I can leave all kinds of troublesome matters to him. My mission is to bask in the sun every day and sleep with beautiful women. Aizen Sosuke couldn't understand. Since he has such a powerful ability, why not manage the world, but just do some fun things? Chen said. The second is to eliminate the aristocratic class and liquidate the current people in power. After all, they are the ones who have committed crimes. But my words and methods may not be like yours. In the final analysis, Central 46 is just a dog of the nobles, so he favors the nobles in everything. Even if the nobles commit crimes, they cannot be tried. It's very simple for me to formulate it. I just need to remove the power of the nobles. Let the civilians also form a civilian council, or something like that, and then let them control most of the power, and the 46th chamber will control a small part of the power. Quote. In this way, the public council will have a way to punish the nobles when they commit crimes. Guys like Tsunayashiro Tokunada can also use the civilian council to try them. The power of the common people's council naturally rests with me. If any noble who has committed a crime refuses to accept the trial, he will be reincarnated. So as long as I am here and there is a common people's council, there will be less and less crimes committed by nobles. After all, except for the Tsunayashiro family, people from other families are considered normal people, and occasionally there are a few abnormal ones. Just bring out those who deserve to be judged and those who deserve to be killed, be killed. As for the sins committed by the ancestors of the 5 nobles against the spiritual king, Ikibe Hyasube is not dead yet, and even the ancestors of several nobles are hiding in some corner. If the spiritual king wants revenge, he will just pull them out and kill them. Then we will find the spirit king's hands, feet, internal organs, etc., and put them together for him, and then let him stabilize the 3 realms, and he will have no complaints. Well, even if we fight together, he can only be the second child. I am the boss, because I will reach a higher state than him. If the spiritual king shouts, I won't do wedge anymore. Then I think I have to commit a crime and let the king of souls sober up and divide him 10 times into households to continue doing Perlin work. Perhaps doing this is a bit like the righteousness in your mouth. For the sake of righteousness, you have to kill civilians and do some bloody things. Quote. If the Soul King really doesn't want to be the wedge, then he can find someone who is willing to be the wedge. Kurosaki Ichigo should be willing. Quote. After all, as long as that guy tells him that if you don't become the Spirit King, the world will collapse and your sister and family won't survive, that guy will definitely be willing to sacrifice. After Su Chen finished speaking, Aizen Sosuke lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. The wind blew by, blowing his hair. He seemed to have been thinking for a moment, or for a long, long time. Finally he raised his head, his glasses reflected the white light, and his eyes could not be seen clearly, and he said, Su Chen, you are indeed a terrible person, a person even more feared than Urahara Kazuki. You almost killed me with just your mouth. You say I am an idealist, but in my eyes you are more like an idealist. If it were someone other than me who heard this, they would just think you are a lunatic. Beyond the spiritual king, isn't that a joke? I'm afraid they will all be so shocked. You have to know that the resistance to the world you want to realize is no less than mine, or even greater. If you could have been born hundreds of years earlier, maybe I would have chosen to follow you and realize the righteousness in your eyes. It's a pity that I don't feel confused about my path now, and I don't have that kind of emotion. So the next time we are honest with each other, we will be enemies. I won't show mercy to you. Aizen Sosuke stood up, and the Kyoka Suigetsu hanging on his waist swayed into a sound of metal collision. Correct. Su Chen stopped him and took out Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku. As soon as the black Hogyoku was released, it seemed to absorb all the light from this world. Take this Hogyoku, I hope you will have stronger strength to deal with me and the resistance of this world. Let me see how far you can go. Su Chen's face was calm. It was a kind of self-confidence derived from his own strength. It seemed that everything was under control. It seemed that even if Aizen Sosuke obtained Hogyoku, he didn't care at all. Aizen Sosuke seized this Hogyoku. The body that was about to leave paused. I looked at Su Chen several times. Then he reached out and picked up the Hogyoku. I didn't expect you to give Hogyoku to me. I wouldn't understand it if anyone else did it. But that person is you. I understand. Aizen Sosuke obtained Hogyoku from Su Chen, now I only need to fuse these 2 Hogyoku to have a complete Hogyoku. But I won't expose it so quickly because I want to give you a little more time to become stronger. I hope you will be strong enough to greet me when the time comes. Let me win happily, or lose happily. No matter which one of us succeeds in changing the world, I think it's a good deal. Su Chen crossed his fingers and held them on the back of his head. You made a mistake. I am not as persistent as you in changing the world. It's like a branch growing to the left. If you have to break it to the right, the branch may break and the world may be destroyed. I am more like an old man fishing. I am not in a hurry. I watch the clouds rise and fall, and the heroes appear and end. Even if the world's lifespan is over and it is eventually destroyed, I will still be there. After hearing Su Chen's words, Aizen Sosuke did not show any emotion, but smiled unexpectedly. Then he walked out of the great spiritual book corridor. On the road leading to the 46th room, he said to himself. You want to be an expert in the world, but it is a pity that you watch, and Tsunayashiro Tokunada will give you such an opportunity. When the world changes when the moment comes, you have to make a choice, and I already know your answer. I am afraid that people in the world will think that the person who wants to create the King Key, is disrespectful to the Soul King. However, they don't know that you, Su Chen, are the biggest disrespect. You dare to say that you put the Soul King together and then dismembered it. That kind of thing. Aizen Sosuke laughed, but if it wasn't like this, it wouldn't be the Su Chen I know. When Aizen Sosuke left, Su Chen had already taken back the infinite world. Su Chen was the only one left in the great spirit book corridor. Look at the sea of knowledge glowing in front of you. Just like the ocean under the night, the waves are sparkling. An idea popped into Su Chen's mind. Although I originally wanted to come here to learn Kido above the 90th level. But here's everything everyone knows from Soul Society's history of 10,000 years. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's Bankai. Bankai by Unohana Retsu. Aizen Sosuke's Shikai, Shutara Senjumaru Bankai. Bankai by Hitsugaya Toshiro. Not just the current 13th division. Even the capabilities of first generation Division 13 are recorded. And all the knowledge of everyone in the past 110,000 years is in it. If you add heaven-defying understanding and acquire them all, how terrible will your abilities be? On his own, as long as he has enough Reiatsu, he can defeat the combined Shinigami of all the Shinigami in Soul Society from 10,000 years to Soul Society. This level has exceeded the limit of Su Chen's current imagination. Just thinking about it can make your whole body tremble. A slight smile appeared on his lips. Bring it on. Jump into the sea of knowledge of 10,000 years. When Aizen Sosuke walked to room 46, Tusen Kanami respectfully placed his right hand in front of his abdomen, bowed slightly and said, Lord Aizen. Aizen Sosuke nodded. Yes, Su Chen is not our comrade, hello King Li, but our enemy. Tusen Kanami said. Do you need me to get rid of him? Aizen Sosuke shook his head. No. You are no match for him. He has one and only one opponent, and that's me. He then took out Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku that Su Chen gave him. Then he took out the Hogyoku he made that he had hidden in his arms. Although the two pieces of Hogyoku are made by different people, they are surprisingly similar. The jet black round jade is suspended in a transparent polygonal frame. As soon as it was taken out, it seemed to emit a strange wave. It seems that as long as you have Hogyoku, there is nothing you can't do in the world. Although Tusen Kanami cannot see it, he is already familiar with Hogyoku's Reiatsu. At this moment, his serious face couldn't help but bring a hint of joy. Congratulations, Aizen-sama, for finally obtaining a complete Hogyoku. Just this piece of Hogyoku in our hands has so much power. If you add Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku, I can't imagine how powerful Aizen-sama will be. I'm afraid the perfect Aizen-sama is about to be born. From now on, we will have no rivals in front of us. Same time, different place. But both Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke are evolving beyond imagination. Aizen Sosuke is reflected in the deep purple light of two Hogyoku graves. The calm eyes under the glasses also had a hint of expectation. Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku was then dedicated to the Hogyoku he made. Two pieces of Hogyoku are getting closer. Then the piece of Hogyoku made by Aizen Sosuke seemed to wake up, emitting an attraction like a black hole. Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku seemed to have turned into a soul and was dedicated to Aizen Sosuke's Hogyoku. After the two pieces of Hogyoku merged, an unprecedentedly powerful energy emitted from the complete Hogyoku. Chapter 62 Aizen's Expectations, Soi Fon and Shihuan Yoruichi. After the two pieces of Hogyoku merged, an unprecedentedly powerful energy emitted from the complete Hogyoku. After Su Chen jumped into the endless sea of knowledge, everything around him enveloped him like an ocean of knowledge. Countless layers of overlapping knowledge appeared before his eyes. As his thoughts moved, this knowledge collapsed and fixed into the content he wanted to see. Let's take a look at Kido above number 91st. Soon, books one by one appeared in front of Su Chen. Open black lens bracket. You read Hadō books and successfully understood Hadō's 90, black coffin. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You understand Hadō's 91, Senju Jiaoshan Taipao. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 96, cremation with one sword. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 99, 5 swirling dragons of destruction. Close black lens bracket. Then comes Bakudo. You watch the Bakudo book box and successfully understand the 99 of Bakudo. Now all Kido Su Chen has been learned. However, while browsing, Su Chen saw some jutsu that were independent of Kido. Ruli Hadō 3 ways Iron Wind Kill. Hadō is the most powerful Kido possessed by Team Zero. Su Chen also understood all of this. But Su Chen found that he only had 2 pairs of eyes after all. The speed of seeing with 2 eyes is still too slow compared to the speed of understanding. Next moment, as Su Chen's thoughts moved, a large number of blue spirit seeds spread out from his body like a torrent, forming a spiritual light curtain. Then eyes appeared one after another on this light curtain. In an instant, hundreds of eyes opened at the same time. Now the speed of watching gradually balanced with the speed of Su Chen's understanding. You successfully understood the Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni Bankai Residual Fire Sword. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You have successfully understood Unohana Retsu Bankai. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You successfully comprehended Aizen Sosuke Shikai Kyoka Suigetsu. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You successfully comprehend Byakuya Kuchiki Bankai Senbon Sakura Kajiyoshi. Close black lens bracket. You have successfully understood Shutara Senju Pill Bankai Sutra Kuluaskeleton Thorn Luo Suji. Close black lens bracket. At the same time Su Chen understood Bankai. Aizen Sosuke dedicated Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku to his own Hogyoku. After the fusion, the Hogyoku burst out with brilliant light. It's like replacing an old light bulb with a new one, and the light it emits is completely different from before. A powerful Reiatsu emitted from Hogyoku, causing Tusen Kanami to retreat continuously. Tusen Kanami couldn't help but be shocked, precisely because he couldn't see, but could feel how terrifying Reiatsu was on top of the perfect Hogyoku. Even captain-level figures like him, 747, find it difficult to approach. Tusen Kanami said, "Congratulations, Master Aizen, on the achievement of Hogyoku. Our road to righteousness is bright." Aizen Sosuke held the Hogyoku in his hand. Although he had obtained the complete Hogyoku, there was no smile on his face, but he said lightly, "What if we fail one day? How is it possible?" Tusen Kanami couldn't understand. Aizen-sama's supreme power, coupled with the acquisition of Hogyoku now, can break through the limits of Shinigami's soul and reach unprecedented levels. "I really don't understand, how can those Shinigami captains might he be Aizen-sama's opponent?" Aizen Sosuke wiped his hair and said with a confident smile, "With those Shinigami captains, there is no way they can be my opponent. The opponent I'm looking forward to is Chen. If Chen wins in the end, then maybe that's what I hope for, because the world he imagined is even more beautiful than our new world." Aizen Sosuke raised his head, looked at the moonlight outside the window and smiled softly. By this time the rain had passed and the sky was clear. The sky in Soul Society turned out to be as blue as a wash, and there were no dark clouds covering it for a while. Tusen Kanami stared blankly at Aizen Sosuke. This was the first time he heard Master Aizen speak so highly of a person. This has never happened before. Even Captain Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni cannot achieve such a high status in the eyes of Aizen-sama. What on earth did the Shinigami named Chen say to Lord Aizen in the Great Spirit Book Corridor, so that he could gain so much attention from Lord Aizen? What amazing ability does he have that actually makes Master Aizen look forward to fighting him? Not far away, Soi Fon, who was on an assassination mission, was using Shunpo to quickly chase a rebel. Soi Fon wears the captain's feather fabric and has short, sleek hair. The two, bell ring snake braids, on the back of his head dance with the wind, like a speeding bee that is constantly approaching the enemy, vowing to kill him. Department. The rebel was wearing black secret guard clothes, which showed that he was also a member of the secret mobile team. Sui Feng's figure flashed, and he was already in front of the rebel. The cold light of Zanpakuto in his hand shone, and it seemed that just one touch could take away the enemy's life. Puff! Sui Feng's knife struck the opponent's abdomen, and a large amount of blood spurted out. Zhonghai Kongzang, the ninth member of the secret mobile team, fell to the ground and fell into a puddle, splashing a lot of water. The blood mixed together and dyed the pool red, CGCF. Zhang Hekongzang was unable to get up again and did not cover the wound on his abdomen. He knew that those hunted by Sui Feng would never have a chance to survive. The criminal army will not stop until the enemy is chased to death. He took off his black mask as a member of the criminal army and breathed in the fresh air after the rain. He smiled bitterly and said, "The captain's knife is still so sharp and cold. Even if the person he wants to attack is his former subordinate, he can kill it without hesitation." Sui Feng's eyes were emotionless as he looked at Zhang Hekongzang lying on the ground, raised the knife in his hand, and placed it on the other person's chest. "Those who violate the rules, your life that should be glorious and proud will be stained with an unforgivable stain, making your life a shame and a joke, but this shame will soon end." Zhang Hekongzang coughed up blood. He was not afraid of death, but smiled and said, "As criminal soldiers, we were trained as killing machines from the beginning. We must not have tired emotions and must obey orders absolutely. Love, family, friendship. As criminal soldiers, we don't deserve these. Even passing on future generations is nothing more than a mechanical combination. Mechanically giving birth to children will not only mean our own lives, but even the children we give birth to will become members of the criminal army, dedicating their lives to the team from generation to generation. Even everything in our world is always cold, like a barren land without light. However, I finally broke the rules and fell in love with a civilian woman. She took care of me when I was injured. I will never forget her smile, which shined into my heart like warm sunshine. Later, I often visited her, but I didn't dare to confess my feelings. As a criminal, I was wandering on the line between life and death every day. I didn't know how to express my feelings at all. When she married me, she would only just talk about it every day. Living a life of fear, I am content with the status quo, as long as I can watch her from a distance. Later she married a noble. There was deep anger in Zhang Hekongzang's eyes, and his voice was a little louder. Who would have thought that the nobleman killed her after he got tired of playing with her? In order to take revenge, I killed the noble, but I was tried for it. The result was of course the death penalty. And Captain, you, daughter here to execute me. I know what I did was against the rules, but I don't regret it. Kill me, Captain Sui Feng. Sui Feng looked at Zhang Hekongzang who had his eyes closed, and tightened his hand that was holding Zanpakuto loosely, gritting his silver teeth. Why can everyone betray what they have always insisted on and admired without hesitation? Such was the case with Shihuan Yoruichi back then. So is you now. Brush. Sui Feng's Zanpakuto fell. However, at the moment when Zhang Hekongzo was about to be killed, a figure that was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen passed by, clamping down on Sui Feng, and the powerful impact carried the two of them quickly towards the depths of the forest. At this time, Sui Fon completely forgot about the struggle, because her body had been controlled by deep shock, and even her own soul was trembling. Quote exclamation mark quote. Boom. The two fell to the ground, making a hole in the ground. Hey, long time no see. Soi Fon. Shihu and Yoruichi chuckled. Before he finished speaking, Sui Feng's figure had already disappeared from the same place, and Shihu and Yoruichi's figure also disappeared at the same time. Both of them were very fast, their feet were touching each other in an instant, and the strong wind was howling. After some testing, they separated. Sui Feng said expressionlessly, I haven't seen you for so long. It seems like your skills haven't improved much. I also feel that you seem to have regressed a bit. Shihu and Yoruichi crossed his arms and smiled confidently. You, a member of the Shihuan family known as the God-given weapon fan, betrayed Soul Society back then and now you are back again. What is your purpose? Or do you have some plan? Shihu and Yoruichi shrugged, can't you come here without a purpose? I haven't been to Soul Society for a long time. Come and see if the scenery here has changed. Do you think I would believe this? You seem to talk a lot. Are you excited to finally meet your admired senior whom you haven't seen for a long time? Or are you venting your long-standing depression? Commander-in-Chief of Stealth Mobile. Or is it because you have inherited my position, which makes you feel pressured? Too big. Shihu and Yoruichi smiled softly. Sui Feng clenched the Zanpakuto in his hand. You'd better not anger me. Don't think that you are superior to others. I am the one who leads the secret mobile team and the criminal army now. Turning the Zanpakuto upside down in his hand, he inserted it into the ground. Your era has ended long ago. Following Sui Feng's movement, which seemed to be some kind of order, a large number of secret guards emerged from the surrounding area, surrounding Shihu and Yoruichi. Sui Feng said confidently, you should know that the moment I issue the order, it means the execution of martial arts has begun. Anyone who is hostile to the Legion Commander will be a target, even the former Legion Commander. Exception. Having given up the title of Legion Commander, you have no way to escape, so let's capture you without mercy. However, before Sui Feng finished speaking, all the members of the criminal army were defeated. At that moment, Shihu and Yoruichi's figure seemed to turn into dozens, appeared in different places, and defeated everyone in just an instant. I did give up the title of Legion Commander, but I still keep the other title. Sui Feng frowned and said, Flash Goddess. Yoruichi. Then he reached out and untied the captain's haori from his waist and took it off. The criminal uniform under the feather fabric was revealed. It's a cool outfit that allows for movement and stretching. Revealing the snow-white skin of the shoulders and back, as well as the strong muscles that have been tempered for many years, the hands. There are black sleeves on the top, and there are openings on the outside of the thighs to facilitate kicking. The battle uniform of the Legion Commander is really nostalgic. Shihu and Yoruichi said faintly. Sui Feng squatted down slowly. Now let's compare ourselves as a warrior, who is more competent. Then she disappeared in an instant, and when she reappeared, she was already behind Yoruichi. The Zanpakuto in her hand was already shikai, and turned into a golden sharp one like a bee sting. The finger caught was fixed on her middle finger. Kill the enemy to death, Suzumaki. Although Shihu and Yoruichi had already dodged instantly, there was still a butterfly-like mark on her abdomen, and a trace of blood flowed out. Shihu and Yoruichi wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth. I didn't expect your speed to become faster. Sui Feng stood on the branch, looking down at Shihu and Yoruichi below. Have you ever thought that after 100 years of practice, I have become stronger than you? So I said. So you don't get too arrogant. Then he said loudly. This is the price you paid for abandoning the name of Legion Commander 100 years ago, and you will pay for it with death. You should know Suzumbaki's abilities. Kill with 2 hits. The first attack will leave a death mark, B-pattern flower, on the target. When you were here, this ability was not yet complete, but now it is perfect. Quote. As long as I attack your abdomen again, you will definitely die. In the past, you might have been able to use Shunko to delay time. As long as half a moment passed, the B-pattern flower would disappear, but now I have overcome even this shortcoming. As long as Shikai. As long as the B-pattern flower is still there, it will not disappear. Then Sui Feng disappeared and attacked Shihu and Yoruichi. There are more and more B-patterns on Shihu and Yoruichi's body, and there are fewer and fewer opportunities to avoid them. Sui Feng smiled softly. You understand, I have surpassed you, Yoruichi. If you understand, then take your life. Then a powerful Reiatsu rose up from Sui Feng's body, and the wind-like Reiatsu gathered at her back and shoulders, as if to sweep away everything. Surprised. This is my first move that combines white hits and Kido. You should be proud to be able to die by this move. I have just practiced this move not long ago, and this is the first time I have used it in actual combat. I haven't even had time to come up with a name. Shihu and Yoruichi chuckled. No, this move already has a name. Then she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. The surging Reiatsu erupted from her shoulders and back, making a crackling explosion that lit up the night like thunder. It's called Shunhu. The reason why I don't use this move against you is because it is too dangerous. How is this possible? Sui Fon couldn't help but sweat dripping from his forehead. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fist, and the power of Kido was concentrated on his fist. However, at this moment, Shihoin Yoruichi's figure disappeared from her sight. When he appeared again, the Kido Reiatsu in her hand was completely eliminated. Sui Fon couldn't help being shocked. Fight against ghosts. The counter-rotating Kido of the same mass collides with the opponent's Kido. And even with my speed and my powerful Reiatsu, how could he resolve his own attack so easily? Sui Feng's face was stained with fighting sweat, and he roared. After hundreds of years of practice, I have clearly surpassed you, but why can you still stand in front of me so easily? Quote. Do you still want to continue dominating me? Answer me, Yoruichi. I can never forgive you for reciting my admiration and dependence. Sui Feng still wants to continue fighting. But Shihoin Yoruichi's fist, with a lot of thunder power, stopped in front of Sui Feng's face. He only had to take one step forward to take away Sui Feng's life. Seeing this scene, Sui Feng grabbed his pants with both hands in pain. Tears couldn't help falling on his face, and the strength in his body seemed to disappear in an instant, and he knelt on the ground. Why didn't you take me with you then? Lord Yoruichi. Chapter 63. Aizen raised his hand. Hadō's 90, Spiritual Book Consciousness. The Shihoin family, one of the 5 great nobles, is also classified as the God-given weapons, because it possesses many magical weapons. When Soi Fon was young, her father took her to see the princess of the Shihoin family. Although he was just standing below, looking up at her from a distance with innocent and ignorant eyes like a child. She was as noble as a princess, with her hair in a noble bun, noble hair accessories, and clothes with beautiful floral decorations that only nobles were qualified to wear. There were guards at the front and back respectfully holding an umbrella for her. Placed in front of her belly, she is noble and elegant, her eyes are firm and cold. My father's words fell upon my ears, which were still a blank sheet of paper at that time. You saw it, Ling. The princess of the Shihoin family will become the commander of the criminal army sooner or later. You will sacrifice your life for her in the future. Understand, meeting her for the first time was like looking up at a god in the sky. Soi Fon's family, B family, belongs to lower-level nobles and is a subsidiary family of the Shihoin family. They have been engaged in executions and assassinations for generations. All members of the clan must join the criminal army and devote their lives. It is their duty to be strong in martial arts. If those who cannot even join the criminal army will be exiled. When it was passed down to Soi Fon, it was already the 9th generation. She was the youngest of 6 siblings. When she joined the criminal army, she gave up the somewhat soft name Soi Fon and instead inherited the name, Sui, used by her great-grandmother. Feng, as the title. Sui Feng, who crushes enemies as ruthlessly as a cold bee, is a perfect fit for him as a criminal soldier. The criminal army is the first detachment of the secret mobile team and the highest ranking among the 5 teams of the secret mobile team. Its mission is to execute and assassinate compatriots who betray Seoul Society's laws and regulations, and to conduct reconnaissance and surveillance of Shu. Of his 5 brothers, 2 were in the first mission, 2 were in the second mission, and the remaining one was in the 6th mission. They all died. Although I was sad in my heart, I felt even more ashamed of their powerlessness. Shihoin Yoruichi leads the criminal army with his transcendent white hits talent. He is the 20th second generation of the Shihoin family and the first female head of the family. Noble and gorgeous, coupled with terrifying strength. She has everything I long for. That yearning is extremely strong, it can be said that it has surpassed yearning and reached worship. As long as I can dedicate my life to her, as long as my insignificant life can have some meaning and effect on her, that is the meaning of my existence as a B. Kneeling respectfully at the door, he lowered his head to her and said, Sui Feng, reporting in, Your Excellency, Army Commander. She sat on a large chair indoors, flanked by 2 kneeling guards from the criminal army with their hands on their knees and serious expressions. You're here. Have you heard everything? Her voice is still so elegant, and being able to talk to her, even just kneeling at the door from a distance, makes my heart beat faster. Sui Feng said without hesitation. Yes. Sui Feng is willing to protect the army commander for the rest of his life. In the 7th year after joining the criminal army, he became the bodyguard directly under the commander of the army and dedicated his loyalty to her. Don't call me Your Excellency. It's too foreign. You can call me something more normal, such as, Yoruichi-sama. She leaned back on the chair and spread her hands helplessly. Then, how is that possible? To the Legion commander, Sui Feng was very surprised. How could I use such an intimate title? However, after seeing Shihoin Yoruichi's troubled eyes, Sui Feng blushed slightly and tangled his hands together. Then, I'll call you, Yoruichi-sama, is that okay? Ah. You are such a stubborn person, do whatever you want. Shihoin Yoruichi couldn't help but sigh up to the sky. Then he sat up straight and said, I called you here because I admire your strength. Your title is not that important. I am looking forward to your performance, Sui Feng. Yes. Sui Feng was very happy in his heart, without any hesitation, even in the battle. He wanted to die for her. Sui Feng looked at Shihoin Yoruichi, secretly swear. They are like sisters, they will fight together and eat together. She will also grab the food in her bowl. When she looks in the mirror in distress and pinches her long hair, she will jump out and scare herself. I thought everything would continue like this. Until one day. When I opened the door of the criminal army's command room, I saw nothing but nothingness and no one. Too suddenly. Without even saying goodbye, he just disappeared from my world. The charges given by Central 46 are helping Urahara Kazuki, who was accused of being expelled, to escape, and disappearing because he was afraid that the matter would be exposed. From now on, Shihoin Yoruichi will be dismissed as the Commander-in-Chief of the Covert Mobile Unit position, and the position of Commander of the Criminal Army General Corps. That was a complete betrayal of the monarch whom I respected and loved as a god. From that moment on, the monarch disappeared in Sui Feng's world, and she was the one who commanded the criminal army and the secret mobile team. She will be merciless and bring all those who betrayed her to justice. I'm so disappointed in you, I'm going to surpass you, and then arrest you with my own hands. I absolutely cannot forgive you for betraying my respect and trust. However, when he heard the rumbling sound of thunder in his ears, and when he saw the dazzling god-like Shihoin Yoruichi in front of him, that slender but capable fist that could shatter the earth stopped in front of him. The powerful Reiatsu even plowed the surrounding earth into shocking traces. She is still so powerful. Looking at the thunderous Reiatsu above her fist, it seemed as if she was going blind, until the Reiatsu dissipated bit by bit. The 10 punches did not choose to kill her. Sui Fon couldn't help but grab the legs of his trousers with both hands, as if he wanted to vent all the grievances he had suffered for hundreds of years. Her originally cold and heartless face gradually began to sob. Like from Sui Fon to Soi Fon. Tears rolled down from his eyes like pearls. As the commander of the criminal army, he could actually cry like this. Why did you? You don't want to take me with you. Lord Yoruichi. Sui Fon seemed to have lost all his strength and knelt down in front of Shihoin Yoruichi. The 2 snake braids on the back of his head also lost their former sassy style and became lonely. Shihoin Yoruichi looked at Sui Fon kneeling beneath him and remained silent for a long time. The reason why she didn't bring Sui Fon with her was because she didn't want her subordinates to be expelled from Soul Society like herself. However, such words cannot be said to Sui Fon. At this moment, the 2 of them felt a powerful Reiatsu wave coming from the direction of room 46. Aizen Sosuke walked out of room 46. Now that he has a complete Hogyoku, the Arrancar transformation plan can be implemented freely. After possessing the power of Arrancar to fight against the Gote 13th Division, all he needs to do is to destroy Karakura Town, make the King Key, and rush to the Spirit King Palace with just one order from him. It seems that after possessing the complete form of Hogyoku, Aizen Sosuke's gaze became even more hidden. He himself is just like Kyoka Suigetsu, who has always kept hypnosis, the many captains of Soul Society, in the dark. No one knows what a cold and ambitious guy is hidden under that kind and gentle surface. However, at this moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared around him. One clamped his left hand and put Zanpakuto's cold blade on his neck, as if just a slight movement could take his life. One grabbed his belt and controlled his right wrist with one hand, seemingly trying to prevent himself from pulling out Zanpakuto. Aizen, Sosuke, Shihoin Yoruichi looked at this man solemnly. 100 years ago, this guy was the one who tricked Urahara Kazuki, Hiroko Shinji and others. Maybe others don't know his true identity, but Shihoin Yoruichi knows that he is an absolutely dangerous guy. Sui Fon put Zanpakuto on Aizen Sosuke's neck and said coldly, Captain Aizen, what are you doing in Central 46 alone so late at night? Please answer me carefully, otherwise you will be dead and dismembered the next moment. Even under the control of the 2 of them, Aizen Sosuke not only did not have any panic look on his face, but also had a faint smile on his lips. As if he heard something funny, he asked, oh, really? It seems that the other party can give it a try. Make a seal with 2 fingers and say, Hadō's 90. Shihoin Yoruichi was shocked and said to Sui Fon, run away. Unexpectedly, in such a restricted situation, Aizen Sosuke could still use Kido above size 90 with just a movement of his fingers. Please give me flowers. Sui Fon also had a look of shock in his eyes. He wanted to avoid it, but it seemed that he was too late. But at this critical moment, the sound of footsteps came from room 46. Brushing, scrubbing, scrubbing. The 9 doors of room 46 opened simultaneously. Shihoin Yoruichi saw Su Chen, dressed in white as snow, walking out. At this moment, the Reiatsu on Su Chen is completely different from what he saw before. It seems to have improved by an unknown amount. Those bright eyes have a bright golden color. It's impossible to look straight at. That kind of terrifying Reiatsu is so terrifying that even his own captain-level strength finds it unbearable. This Reiatsu is so terrifying. What did Su Chen do when he entered room 46? How could there be such a big change? And, in his hand, the Zanpakuto. That's the 3rd Zanpakuto. What? Didn't Su Chen originally have 2 Zanpakuto? At this moment, the 2 knives on his waist are still hanging on it, but he still holds one in his hand. That Zanpakuto looks like the most ordinary sealed state, unremarkable. But it seems to have a kind of magic power, and the texture is completely different from the ordinary sealed state. But in the eyes of Sui Fon at this time, what I saw was not Su Chen at all. Instead, I saw a veteran from room 46 walking out. The elder said to himself calmly, I ordered Aizen Sosuke to come over. Please step back. The time is pushed forward a little bit. Su Chen is comprehending various bankai in the corridor of the great spiritual book. With the blessing of thousands of eyes, he quickly realized many abilities. Not just bankai, but shikai, as well as slashing, punching, walking, ghosting, and more. All knowledge is being understood quickly. It's just that the knowledge and abilities of everyone in Soul Society in the past 110,000 years are too vast and vast. Even though Su Chen has used such a fast speed, he still only comprehends a drop in the ocean. It's a pity that we have to understand what's going on here. I'm afraid knowledge takes too long and can only stop here. Quote. Fortunately, I have understood the shikai and bankai of the captains first. Su Chen jumped out of the sea of knowledge and stood in the corridor of the great spiritual book. However, just understanding shikai and bankai is not enough. A zanpakuto is also needed as a carrier. But his own, cutting weeds, and eliminating roots, obviously do not have the ability of such a carrier. So, Su Chen planned to gather another zanpakuto. However, at this moment, a black shadow emerged from the sea of knowledge. This surprised Su Chen. He didn't even notice it. Who are you? I am the Great Spiritual Book Corridor, and the Great Spiritual Book Corridor is me. Or you can understand it as, I am spiritual consciousness. The black shadow faded away bit by bit. The body covered by black was exposed. I saw that it was a naked girl with long snow-white hair. Suspended in midair, her long hair has been hanging down and scattered. Hanging over the snow-white, delicate and perfectly curved back. Hanging over the plump breasts, perky hips, thighs, calves, and finally the delicate and exquisite feet. Every inch of her body was spotless, astonishingly clean and smooth, as if she had never stepped foot here. Her eyes looked like she had seen the vicissitudes of everything in the world, but she also looked like an innocent girl who knew nothing. Even a pair of eyebrows are white, but the pupils are golden, emitting a strong golden light. After a while, the golden light gradually converged. In the depths of her pupils, it seemed that she could still see many densely packed characters, as if what was recorded in her mind was, who? All the knowledge from 10,000 years in Soul World. Su Chen chuckled lightly, Lingshu consciousness is interesting. I have long thought that the Great Spirit Book Corridor is very strange. It has nothing to do with the will of the Shinigami, but is forced to collect all the information of the Soul Society. It seems that that is one of your abilities. Quote. You turned yourself into a book or a drop of water, hidden among millions of books or millions of drops of water, so that no one can detect your existence. Why do you show up now? The girl stared at Su Chen motionlessly, her eyes with long white eyelashes never blinking, because of you. Chapter 64 Su Chen vs Aizen, Yoruichi's kiss. Because I. The girl nodded, then stretched out a finger and tapped her little head, because I don't have your information. For the girl, there is no information in the world that she does not know. Only Su Chen is mysterious and unknown. She wants to understand Su Chen and know what kind of person Su Chen is. And, I also want to go out and have a look. Su Chen touched his chin, seeming to be thinking about this. I just heard the girl use a soft voice and pointed to her head, Then he pointed at the sea of knowledge below with his milky white finger, It seems that because she hasn't spoken much, the girl's expressions are a little jumpy. Su Chen said. You mean that as long as I bring you with me, it will be equivalent to bringing with me all the knowledge in the corridor of the great spiritual book, right? The girl nodded. In that case, you can become my zanpakuto. I'll call you Spirit Book. Okay. Quote. As Su Chen stretched his right hand forward, the girl suspended in the air turned into a spirit and floated in front of Su Chen's eyes. Her petite figure only reached Su Chen's waist, which was just right if she was held in her arms. The girl's body dissipated and turned into a zanpakuto with a white bandage wrapped around the hilt. The bandage even extended long and fell to the ground. The moment he held the knife, Su Chen already knew its capabilities. Spirit Book can use all shikai and bankai that Su Chen has understood. Similar to the Tsunayashiro families, Yanluo Jingdian. However, Yanluo Jingdian has a shortcoming. Each time it is used, the soul will be chipped away moment by moment, and it cannot be recovered. Spirit Book is 137, because it is just a carrier for Su Chen to perform. The person who owns bankai is Su Chen, not the Spirit Book, so it does not have the shortcomings of Yanluo Jingdian. And the moment he held the Spirit Book, the Reiatsu in Su Chen seemed to have improved a lot. The powerful Reiatsu even turned into a substantial storm, pushing away the surrounding blue sea of knowledge and entering the inner wall of the Great Spirit Book Corridor. Su Chen then used the control of the spirit to condense a scabbard, and inserted the Spirit Book into the scabbard. When Su Chen walked out, he unexpectedly encountered the scene where Aizen Sosuke met Shihuan Yoruichi and Soi Fon. So he pulled out the Spirit Book in his hand and used Kyoka Suigetsu's ability. Although Su Chen did not change much at Shihuan Yoruichi's night, in Sui Feng's eyes, Su Chen was regarded as the elder of room 46. After hearing what Su Chen said, Sui Feng said respectfully, yes. Then after taking a deep look at Shihuan Yoruichi, he left with the criminal army. Aizen Sosuke turned around. What ability did you just use? How could you make Sui Feng so obedient? Shihuan Yoruichi was also full of doubts. He didn't understand the relationship between Su Chen and Sui Feng. Could it be that Sui Feng chose to follow Su Chen like him? Su Chen chuckled lightly. Oh. Didn't you notice? I thought you were already familiar with the fluctuations. Aizen Sosuke's eyes were sharp. Could it be Kyoka Suigetsu? That's right. Su Chen said calmly. Tusen Kanami, who was in room 46, was extremely shocked. How can it be? What Su Chen used just now was Kyoka Suigetsu. Isn't that Aizen-sama Zanpakuto's Shikai ability? Why can Su Chen cast it? Although he didn't go out, Tusen Kanami's hearing is very powerful, and he can really hear what is happening outside. He never expected that Su Chen would master the ability of Kyoka Suigetsu after coming out of the Great Spirit Book corridor. How did you do that? Shihuan Yoruichi couldn't help being surprised as well. Su Chen's original strength was already terrifying, but he didn't expect that he could even possess the abilities of Kyoka Suigetsu, a pervert like Aizen Sosuke. If Shihuan Yoruichi could still see a little bit of Su Chen's shadow before, now she can't even see Su Chen's true strength clearly. And she also found that Su Chen had an extra Zanpakuto in his hand. 3 Zanpakuto's Shinigami has never appeared in Soul Society. Even Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitake are just the only 2 Shinigami in Soul Society who have paired Zanpakuto. Although there are 2 Zanpakuto, those 2 swords actually represent the power of Shinigami, so they both look symmetrical. However, the Zanpakuto Shikai in Su Chen's hand became one black and one white, and the shape was a little different. It didn't look like a pair, but rather it seemed to represent different powers. At this moment, he has the 3rd Zanpakuto, which has never happened among the Shinigami in Soul Society. What special ability does that knife have? After hearing Su Chen's reply, Aizen Sosuke's eyes were under the reflection of the lenses and could not see clearly. It's terrible. Is that Zanpakuto's ability? Copying. Su Chen smiled and placed the Zanpakuto wrapped in white bandages in front of him. It's not that. Why don't you try it yourself and you will know. Aizen Sosuke couldn't help but laugh. Quote. Quote. Aizen Sosuke placed his hand on the hilt of Kyoka Suigetsu's sword. There seemed to be invisible sparks between the two. Aizen Sosuke slowly drew out his sword. The blade made a metallic sound as it rubbed against the scabbard, revealing a glistening blade. Shihuan Yoruichi frowned. Is it really good to start a fight with Aizen Sosuke here? Will it attract other people? But she wasn't trying to persuade Su Chen. Su Chen is a person far smarter and stronger than himself. Next moment, Aizen Sosuke's figure disappeared from sight. When he appeared again, he was already behind Su Chen. So fast. Shihuan Yoruichi was shocked. I didn't expect Aizen Sosuke's Shunpo to have reached such a rapid pace. Even compared to myself, it's not too much. You must know that he is the #1 person in Soul Society Shunpo, and is known as the Flash Goddess. Aizen Sosuke has no such title. In Soul Society, he appeared in everyone's eyes with a kind and gentle image. However, this person who doesn't practice Shunpo very much is actually about the same level as himself on Shunpo's level. It's enough to show how terrifying this person is. Su Chen, how would you respond? Su Chen turned the blade of the knife downwards, let go of his hand, and the tip of the knife slowly fell into the ground, saying, Bankai, Senbon Sakura Kujiyoshi. In an instant, thousands of Zanpakuto rose up around Su Chen, so densely packed that just looking at them would make your eyes sting. Not only that, even the surrounding space seemed to be isolated to another place. Suddenly thousands of Zanpakuto turned into billions of sharp blades like sakura flower petals. These sharp blades gathered behind Su Chen's youth like a tide. There was a sound. Easily blocked Aizen Sosuke's attack. The scenery at this moment is really beautiful. Under the countless sakura flowers, it seems that we have arrived in spring when everything is blooming. There is definitely a murderous intention to die if you are not careful amidst such beauty. Tusen Kanami couldn't help but cried out in shock, what? That's Byakuya Kuchiki's Bankai. When did Su Chen get it? The so-called Senbon Sakura is transformed into countless tiny blades, which look like sakura flower petals due to the reflection. Once this move is launched, everything around it can be enveloped within the attack range. It is a large-scale offensive move. Under those countless blades, Aizen Sosuke's attacks were as inexperienced as humans facing a tsunami. Not only did it block his sword, but it also struck Aizen Sosuke. Shihuan Yoruichi once witnessed the power of Senbon Sakura. If an enemy is hit by these seemingly beautiful petals, a large amount of blood will burst out from the body. There are countless small wounds, which can cause the enemy extreme pain in an instant. However, Aizen Sosuke saw this move, smiled lightly, raised 2 fingers of his left hand, and said in his mouth, Bakudo number 81, Splitting Void. Quote. In an instant, an invisible barrier appeared in front of Aizen Sosuke. This barrier seemed to extend from one side of the sky to the other side of the hospital. The scope is astonishing. It was like a huge invisible wall standing between Chen and Aizen Sosuke, isolating them in different spaces. Seeing this scene, Shihoin Yoruichi couldn't help but open his mouth. How come? Kido on such a large scale. And it's still sung by Po Chi. Aizen Sosuke also smiled when he saw the billions of blades filling the sky. I didn't expect that Chen would drive Bankai as soon as you started working. I'm really surprised. But the attack power of these blades alone doesn't seem to be enough to break through. However, before Aizen Sosuke could finish his words, he saw a scene that surprised him. Oh, is it so? Chen chuckled lightly, took the billions of blades back into his hands, and turned them into the Zanpakuto wrapped in white bandages. Everything will turn into ashes. Ryujin Jaka. In an instant, the surrounding temperature seemed to have increased by several orders of magnitude, as if it had suddenly entered an oven. With a slight wave of the knife in Chen's hand, a large amount of flames spread out, as if they were scorching the surrounding air. The sword slashed towards Aizen Sosuke's body. Aizen Sosuke's expression changed. He is aware of Ryujin Jaka's attack power. As Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's Zanpakuto, he is known as Soul Society's #1 attack power Zanpakuto. His own splitting void will never be able to block this move. Sure enough, under this knife, Aizen Sosuke's splitting void was broken as easily as a mirror. And if Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni performed this move, Aizen Sosuke might still have a chance to dodge with Shunpo. But Chen's speed was terrifying, and he was now in front of him, slashing him with his sword. Boom! A large amount of flames erupted in the direction of Aizen Sosuke, and the astonishing flames illuminated half of the sky like daylight. After Soi Fon got the order to leave, he never dared to get close. But he didn't dare to leave too far. However, Master Yoruichi did not come out after waiting for a long time. And I had a vague feeling that something was not right with Aizen Sosuke. What he wanted to shout just now was clearly Hadō number 90, right? When did the captain of the 5th division even master the 90 Hadō? Is he hiding something? No. We have to see what's going on. Sui Fon returned along the original path. Shihoin Yoruichi saw Chen wielding a burning Zanpakuto in his hand, slashing it at Aizen Sosuke. Aizen Sosuke raised his knife to block. A large amount of flames engulfed him like the wind. Seeing this scene, Shihoin Yoruichi's pupils suddenly flashed. Shrinking, he couldn't help but stand still. How can it be? That was clearly Ryujin Jaka. Isn't that the old man's Zanpakuto? Why does it appear in Chen's body? With this blow, Aizen Sosuke will probably die. However, what shocked her even more was that Aizen Sosuke was actually fine. Under the ultimate heat, after the flames dissipated, Aizen Sosuke retreated some distance away. I saw some burnt marks on the Captain Yori on his body. Although he looked a little embarrassed, it was not serious. How can it be? Aizen Sosuke is so powerful. Aizen Momonosuke glanced into the distance. Reiatsu seems to be sensing Sui Fon. Then he took a deep look at the nappa in Chen's hand and returned to the bandaged Zanpakuto. That sword can actually use either Shikai or Bankai of the 3 captains. Perhaps its ability is not copying, but Aizen Sosuke already knows that the sword's ability is to use other people's Bankai. Such power is truly terrifying. It seems that today's discussion can only end here. If the fight continues, I'm afraid it will alarm the entire Jingalingting. Although the fight between the two just now was fierce, Aizen Sosuke kept using Kyoka Suigetsu to control the battlefield. In the eyes of other people in Seraiti, this place is just ordinary, and there is no powerful Reiatsu reaction at all. So Sui Fon didn't feel any Reiatsu, but just felt that something was wrong. Chen, see you next time. After saying that, Aizen Sosuke's figure disappeared from the place. Chen came down from the sky. Shihoin Yoruichi approached Chen and asked curiously, what's going on with your Zanpakuto? Why can you have so many Bankai? Chen smiled and stretched out his profile, if you want to know, kiss me. Shihoin Yoruichi blushed, but because his skin was brown, it was not very visible. Although she usually looks carefree, this is the first time she kisses a man on the face like this. He looked around hesitantly, but found no one, then he moved slightly closer to Chen, and his thick lips pressed on Chen's face. It left a somewhat moist mark. It feels surprisingly comfortable. I originally thought that there was nothing good about kissing a man. He had rough skin, so it would be better to kiss a cute girl. Maybe it's because he is Chen, but even his heartbeat seems to have accelerated a little. However, this scene was seen by Sui Fon, who had just arrived here. Chapter 65 Aizen's excitement, shame and anger Sui Fon. Aizen Sosuke uses Shunpo to rush towards the 5th division. After images flashed in the woods, and the next moment they appeared thousands of meters away. If other captains saw his Shunpo speed, they would probably be surprised. In their eyes, the captain of the 5th division team, who usually only does rescue and other chores, can be so fast. It can be said that even those who do not have Kyoka Suigetsu, Seraiti have been deceived by Aizen Sosuke. Of course, except for Urahara Kazuki, Hiroko Shinji and others 100 years ago. At this time, Aizen Sosuke received a communication request from Tusen Konami. He took out something similar to a mobile phone and connected the video call. Tusen Konami is temporarily staying at Central 46 to process documents. Although Kyoka Suigetsu can confuse everyone, making people think that the 46 chambers still exist. But if no one handles the documents sent in, it won't be long before someone notices it. Of course, Kyoka Suigetsu allows people to see the processed files, but each file is too detailed after all, and it requires a lot of calculations to simulate it. This task will be left to Tusen Konami for the time being. At this time, Tusen Konami was a little shocked and said, I didn't expect Chen to be able to use Ryujin Jaka. That is Captain Yamamoto's Zanpakuto ability. It is even known as Soul Society's strongest attack Zanpakuto. If Chen also uses Ryujin Jaka, if so, wouldn't it be? Aizen Sosuke said calmly. No problem, I already have a way to deal with Ryujin Jaka. Just go to Hawako Mundo in a while. But if you simply understand Chen's Zanpakuto as Ryujin Jaka, you are wrong. That Zanpakuto can be said to be a Zanpakuto without any weaknesses. The Tsunayashiro family has a beautiful mirror, did you know? Excuse my ignorance. Tusen Konami shook his head. Aizen Sosuke said with a calm expression, it's not your fault. After all, that sword is the oldest Zanpakuto passed down by the Tsunayashiro family. It has been passed down for unknown years. The so-called Yanluo Jingdu can be imitated after liberation. There are many kinds of Zanpakuto, and many of the same Zanpakuto. Although it possesses powerful power, it will chip away at the owner's soul moment by moment, and it will never be restored. Tusen Konami was horrified, there is such a dangerous Zanpakuto. If the soul is cut off, will there be no reincarnation, but a complete death? But this is unknown. Tusen Konami continued. Does Chen's Zanpakuto also have such a problem? In other words, Chen's power will also chip away his soul bit by bit. Aizen Sosuke shook his head, that's unknown. Tusen Konami couldn't help but said, assuming that Chen's Zanpakuto does not have the shortcomings of Yanluo Jingdian's ability to reduce the soul, it would be too difficult to deal with. Aizen Sosuke smiled and said, yes, you are wrong to think so. That Zanpakuto is just Chen's weakest one. Tusen Konami couldn't help but tighten his hand holding the communication phone, how is it possible? That sword can be used by so many people, Shikai and Bankai, but it is only the weakest one. Aizen Sosuke pushed up his glasses and analyzed. Another feature of the Zanpakuto is that the power of the used Shikai or Bankai will be determined according to the user's Reiatsu. In other words, the Zanpakuto is still Reiatsu. Within the discussion, the decision was made the next day. But Chen's other two Zanpakuto are terrifying. Those are the two Zanpakuto that really make people despair. Those two Zanpakuto have already involved the level of rules, and they are not just about Reiatsu. Quote. Tusen Konami was deeply horrified. He didn't expect Chen to be so scary. Then he was silent for a moment, looked at the wall of room 46, and said, Sir Aizen, I just discovered a good thing. Oh, what's the matter? Aizen Sosuke said casually, not taking this matter to heart. Tusen Konami looked at the walls of room 46 and said, just now I tried to use Reiatsu to test the walls of room 46 and found that they are all made of murderous stone. When Aizen Sosuke heard this, his steps suddenly stopped, and his pupils under his glasses shrank. He had forgotten to listen to what Tusen Konami said next. He thought it was his Reiatsu that attracted Soi Fon and Shihuan Yoruichi, but he didn't expect. Tusen Konami continued. The murderous stone can obviously block spiritual power. The Reiatsu that Hogyoku fused just now did not transmit it. How do Soi Fon and Shihuan Yoruichi feel? Quote. Aizen Sosuke grinned and showed a creepy smile. There is only one answer, and that is Chen's soul. I didn't expect Chen's Reiatsu to be so powerful that it could pass through the murderous stone. It's really making me more and more excited. Chen. At this moment, when Sui Fon saw the goddess in his mind actually doing that indescribable thing with Chen, his body seemed to stiffen and froze in place, and seemed to turn into gray stone statue. What are you doing? Then he asked with a kind smile. But a pair of eyes were hidden under the shadow of the leaves, looking dark. Shihuan Yoruichi coughed and quickly stabilized the situation. Ahem, Sui Fon, what you just saw is different from what you thought, you have to calm down. Chen pulled Shihuan Yoruichi over without any fear. He smiled and looked at Sui Fon. Didn't you see clearly just now? Then I will demonstrate it to you again. A wave. Another kiss on Yoruichi's cheek. Shihuan Yoruichi couldn't help but jump. Sui Fon is aware of her admiration for her. If she still gets angry at this time. Sui Fon silently pulled out his Zanpakuto and smiled kindly. Igog. Boy, do you know what the crime is for breaking into room 46 in the middle of the night? Shihuan Yoruichi stretched out his hand to stop him. Sui Fon, calm down. Yoruichi-sama doesn't have to worry about him. After all, this kid is the one you like, how could you be willing to hurt him? Sui Fon said with a smile. Then Sui Feng's figure disappeared from the spot, and he slashed at Chen with a tentative knife. Alas, Shihuan Yoruichi shook his head. She was not worried about Chen, but worried about Sui Fon. She was afraid that this little girl wouldn't be able to withstand the blow. After all, Su Chen was stronger than herself. However, Sui Feng's sword hit the air. Su Chen's movements were actually faster than hers, and he instantly disappeared within the range of her attack. What? Sui Feng finally recovered from his careless smile. The smile in his eyes faded little by little. Standing under the moonlight with the knife in hand, his petite body was like a bee that could quickly kill in front of him at any time. Although he suppressed his smile, he still didn't look surprised. I didn't expect you to be so fast. It seems you have some ability to make Yoruichi-sama like you. But the speed just now was only 1/3 of my maximum speed. Before Sui Feng finished speaking, Su Chen smiled slightly and said, "Oh, really?" Then his afterimage passed by Sui Feng's side in an instant. It's like time stopped at this moment. Sui Feng's actions of widening his eyes and trying to turn his head are all played out frame by frame as if in slow motion. At this time, Su Chen had already passed by him. Time returned to normal, and a gust of wind was carried by Su Chen, causing Sui Feng's skin to feel a little cold. It was so cold that she had goosebumps. As for the captain, Yori, she had already taken it off when she was having sex just now. The shoulders and back of the combat uniform reveal snow-white skin, and even if you look at it from the side, you can see half of the looming plumpness, full of astringency. At that moment, Sui Feng just saw an afterimage. He almost couldn't even catch up with the opponent's speed with his own eyes. How fast that is. I'm afraid Yoruichi-sama's Shunpo is nothing more than this, right? Who is this person? Sui Feng couldn't help but shed a drop of cold sweat on his forehead. However, when she turned around, she saw a smooth hair wrapped around Su Chen's fingers. When he looked down, he saw that it was his own hair. Sui Feng's pupils shrank. Who are you? What's the purpose of approaching Yoruichi-sama? Su Chen played with Sui Feng's hair in his hand. I didn't expect that the commander of the criminal army looks like a cold and hard person, but his hair is also soft. As for my name, it's normal that you haven't heard of it. My name is Su Chen. I must have just graduated from the Spiritual Arts Academy. How is it possible? Sui Feng couldn't believe it. A student from the Spiritual Arts Academy can actually have such a powerful Shunpo level. Su Chen smiled and put his arm around Shihun Yoruichi's shoulders. What do you think? Could it be that? Could it be that? Sui Feng had a guess in his mind. Could it be that his Shunpo level is so strong because of Master Yoruichi's teachings? Shihun Yoruichi gave Su Chen a helpless look and poked his chest. Can you please stop irritating my Sui Feng so much? Well, she's so cute, I can't help teasing her. Su Chen put the strand of short hair in her hand into her pocket. Sui Feng's next blow came in an instant. At this time, she no longer dared to be careless and used her full strength. The Zanpakuto in hand is also already Shikai. It turned into a sharp and long golden finger cuff. Just staring at it felt like his eyes were injured. Sting the enemy to death, Suzumaki. In the Shikai state, Sui Feng's strength is greatly improved. The speed is much faster. Sui Feng smiled and said, "You have to be careful, Suzumbaki's ability is a two-hit kill." Oh, really? I want to see if it can kill. Su Chen didn't care. Shihun Yoruichi said helplessly, "Stop teasing her, let's go." Su Chen nodded, "Okay." Then Sui Feng's blow was blocked by a blue spirit shield before it even touched Su Chen. Sui Feng couldn't help but widen his eyes. This ability to control atmospheric spiritual particles is clearly the ability of a Quincy. How did Su Chen, a Shinigami, possess the power of a Quincy? Then Su Chen Shunpo came to Sui Feng and gently raised her chin, making her look up at him. Sui Feng wanted to move, but at this moment she felt a powerful Reiatsu completely suppressing her body, making her unable to move at all, as if there were countless swords on her neck and waist. Legs. It seems that if you move, you will be killed. Cold sweat was flowing down continuously, and when the wind blew, I felt an unprecedented coldness. Looking at Su Chen's face up close, watching him getting closer and closer to her. Sui Feng's heartbeat unexpectedly accelerated. He's going to do it. What? Is he going to kiss himself? Sui Feng couldn't help but lean back slightly, so that it ended up leaning back almost 90 degrees, but his body still stood in the same place. Tisk, 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 it seems that your waist strength and body flexibility are excellent. Su Chen smiled. Sui Feng snorted coldly, these actions are just simple. The training of our killers is far more difficult than this. I can do it even if my heels touch my shoulders. Quote, it's a pity that I can't seem to resist 287 Su Chen. Forget it, he's pretty good looking, so there's no harm in kissing him. Sui Feng's long eyelashes trembled slightly and she couldn't help but close her eyes. Unexpectedly, he, the leader of the second division, would be scorned by a man one day. No, rather than being kissed, it is better to take the initiative to kiss others. As the commander of the criminal army, how could I be bullied? If others find out, how can I survive? However, before he could get closer, his butt was slapped and his chest was pinched. She immediately opened her eyes, and her face was so red that it looked like steam was about to erupt. What, do you think I want to kiss you? It's a pity that you are too thin, there is not much meat in your butt, and not even in your chest. Quote. Quote. Sui Fon felt like he was about to explode. How dare someone tease him like this as the commander of the criminal army? I must arrest him and torture him every day to vent my hatred. After making a comment, Chen left with Shihuan Yoruichi Shunpo. Bye. Sui Fon was left standing there with a face of shame and anger and roared, Chen. I will definitely catch you and cut you into pieces. Then more than a dozen trees around were cut down at the same time. Tisk, 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 it's really scary. Shihuan Yoruichi turned into a black cat and rested on Chen's shoulder. He smiled and said, why, are you also interested in Sui Fon? Chen nodded, well, she is indeed quite cute. Shihuan Yoruichi nodded, okay, I'll help you when the time comes. If you tease her like this, she won't forget you. After all, if there are more people, I will be more lively. Now, in Chen's house, in the bathtub, a plump body was soaked in it. Although the steam was steaming and the water was also very hot, Matsumoto Rangaku was drinking cold wine. No matter how hot the water was, it could not warm her heart. Looking lonely at the moon outside the window. You're the only one left to drink with me. Silver just left without saying goodbye. Chen was nowhere to be seen either. Could it be that he, like Yin, would leave her one day? But I have no idea what they are thinking in their hearts. Only wine for company. One drink can solve 1,000 worries. Forget it, don't think about it anymore. Matsumoto Rangaku pointed the bottle at his mouth, raised his head and took a sip. A lot of wine even flowed down the corners of the mouth, and the skin was as smooth as a slide. It first went down sharply, and then seemed to converge into a depression formed by the collarbone. After drinking wine and taking a shower, Matsumoto Rangaku wrapped himself in a bath towel and didn't even wipe the water drops on his body. He just sat on the cold floor and leaned on the sofa with his hands on his knees. Shang looked at the scenery outside the window in a daze. At this moment, she seemed to see something. Chapter 66 Matsumoto Rangaku's Heart, Aizen's Perfect Disguise. However, at this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku saw a figure walking slowly from the forest in the distance. At first, I just took a curious look. When I saw the person dressed in white, I was still confused about who it was. But when I looked closely, I realized it was Chen. When Chen was about to return home, the door was opened automatically. Although she hadn't seen it yet, Chen had already felt Matsumoto Rangaku's Reiatsu. Welcome back. Matsumoto Rangaku smiled. Do you want to take a shower first? The hot water has been put in. Although it is the one I just used, I will change it if you mind. Or do you want to eat first? Chen looked at Matsumoto Rangaku who was just wrapped in a bath towel in front of him. His plump thighs were very eye-catching, and his chest was full of the bath towel, as if it would pop out of the restraints at any time. Let's take a shower first. So Chen walked into the bathroom, took off her clothes and took a shower. When she came out of the bathroom again, she smelled the delicious smell. The meal is ready, let's eat. Chen had already heard the sound of cooking when she was in the bathroom just now. While eating, Matsumoto Rangaku made another cup of tea and handed it to him. Chen took a sip, and then felt two jade hands slowly hammering on his thighs. It was Matsumoto Rangaku. Kneel down and tap your thighs with your feet. Are you tired? Let me help you relax your muscles. Matsumoto Rangaku closed his knees and knelt on the floor. Quote. Actually, you don't have to do this. Chen grabbed Matsumoto Rangaku's hand, put her on the sofa, and sat with him. Matsumoto Rangaku was a little silent. He picked up the wine on the table and took a sip. He hugged his knees and said, I'm just afraid that one day, you will be like a former friend. No, say goodbye. Don't worry, I won't leave. Chen also took a sip of wine, hugged Matsumoto Rangaku gently, and buried his head in her long blonde hair that she had just washed. The so-called Matsumoto Rangaku means that underneath the gorgeous appearance, there is an unknown sadness. Perhaps in the eyes of outsiders, she is a carefree and mature big sister, but no one knows that she is also a fragile person on the inside. When did you get into the habit of drinking? She couldn't remember clearly. Drinking is to forget the pain in your heart, so you don't have to think about complicated things when you fall asleep. Matsumoto Rangaku also reached out and hugged Chen, gently at first, then more and more tightly, as if he wanted to melt Chen into his arms. Then she leaned on Chen's shoulder and sobbed softly, and Chen patted her back gently. As he cried, Matsumoto Rangaku seemed to feel something pressing against his abdomen. She had almost vented her emotions, and said with a tearful smile, I didn't expect that brother Chen would react when he looked so cold. Please, I am also a man. How can I not be moved by holding a beautiful woman like you? Little brother, let me help you solve it. Matsumoto Rangaku smiled and untied Chen's belt and lowered his head. However, Chen reached out to stop her. What's wrong? Don't you want me to do this? Chen looked directly into her eyes and said, I hope you do this because you like me, not because you want to keep me. Then Chen returned to the room and closed the door with a cry. The smile on Matsumoto Rangaku's face faded little by little. Indeed, What I did just now may have been an impulse under the influence of alcohol. Maybe as long as something happens between herself and Su Chen, she won't leave without saying goodbye like Yin did. It was precisely because he was aware of this thought in his heart that Su Chen rejected himself. Matsumoto Rangaku thought for a long time, and finally seemed to have figured it out. He opened the door of Su Chen's room, walked in, and got into Su Chen's bed from underneath. Her shoulders were resting on the side of Su Chen's face, but her pupils were shining in the dark night, no longer as sad and lonely as before. Although I haven't figured out whether what I feel for you is love. But if your body doesn't let it out, it will be very distressed, right? As an older sister, I need to help my adolescent brother deal with his troubles. However, Su Chen still stretched out his hand to block her, his eyes calm. Do you know why Yin left you? Matsumoto Rangaku lowered his head, and his long, silky golden hair spread on Su Chen's face, making him feel itchy. I can probably guess a little bit. Maybe he did that because of me, although I don't know the specific reason. Su Chen looked into her eyes. Yin did this to take back something that was taken away from you. Matsumoto Rangaku also stared into Su Chen's eyes, but I don't need him to do that for me. Those things don't belong to me in the first place. I can feel that I am just the lucky one among hundreds of millions of people. I got a treasure by chance. The treasure was later taken away. Silver left in order to get it back. Perhaps Yin did it for me at first, but as time went by, the reason why Yin was able to persevere was probably not only because of me, but also because of the great justice in his heart. Even if Yin really takes back something like that for me, I will only regard him as a very good friend, a friend who can be absolutely trusted. I will be grateful to him and thank him. But this has nothing to do with love. Different. Perhaps if Yin had not chosen to leave me, we would have become lovers, but there is no what if. Now I already have your place in my heart. Even if Yin comes back, he and I will only be friends. So, I don't regret doing this. Then he lowered his head and saw the quilt rising and falling gently. Aizen Sosuke returned to the 5th Division team building. At this moment, the lights in the team building are still bright even in this late night. Before entering the team building, a petite figure had already ran out and said with concern, "Captain Aizen, you are back." Then she saw some burn marks on Aizen Sosuke's clothes, and couldn't help but cover her mouth. "Captain Aizen, are you injured? Are you okay?" Aizen Sosuke smiled and touched Hinamori Momo's hand and said, "Hinamori, I'm fine. I just had a few moves with a strong man. Not only was I fine, but I was very happy." "Money is good," Hinamori Momo nodded while enjoying Aizen Sosuke's touch. "Yeah." In her eyes, Captain Aizen is so powerful, like a god appearing in front of those who need rescue. But who is it this time that can actually injure Captain Aizen? "But Captain Aizen, can you please not fight such a strong person next time? I will be worried." "Good." Aizen Sosuke smiled and said. Hinamori Momo then ran into the squad to get a new Captain Haori for Aizen Sosuke. Aizen Sosuke looked at Hinamori Momo's leaving figure, and his smile disappeared little by little. People who admire themselves can never understand what they really want, right? "Hinamori, you are really far away from understanding me. But it's quite interesting to see you being kept in the dark and knowing nothing. I wonder how surprised you will be when you understand everything one day." Chapter 67 Su Chen's Powerful Reiatsu, Aizen's Shock. 3 hours later, Matsumoto Rangaku swallowed, then got up and went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. After returning to Su Chen's room, he wrapped his hands and feet around Su Chen and hugged him to sleep. Perhaps because of what happened just now, her eyes seemed to melt when she looked at Su Chen. Her cheeks were also a little red. This was the first time she had done this kind of thing. She was really tired. She didn't expect that Su Chen's brother would take so long. It really made her love and hate her, and her cheeks had already lost consciousness. So he hugged Su Chen and fell asleep. Su Chen looked at the ceiling but felt a little sleepless. The physical needs have been taken care of. But after all, he became connected with the women in this world. What will happen to them if they leave this world one day? Is there any way I can take them with me? Forget it. These problems are still far away from me. There must be a road before the car reaches the mountain. In short, it is impossible for one's own women to choose to let go like Yin, and if one wants to leave, one must take them with him. The 2nd Division team building is located on the mountain. There is a long staircase going up to the top of the mountain. There is a pillar with the word, printed on it in front of the staircase. There are trees and thick grass on both sides. Currently in the knife-throwing room of the team building, Soi Fon held a large flying knife in his hand with an expressionless expression on his face. A knife flew out and pierced the wooden doll 113 in front of him. The entire blade of the flying knife had already penetrated into the puppet, which shows that the person wielding the knife exerted deep force and cut with great force. Knife after knife, the puppet in front of me started with only one knife, and gradually became full of knives. Omeda Marekio is a fat person, so a fat person will be hungry from time to time and will often eat some small national food. Although it was already night, he still went out to find some midnight snacks. Unexpectedly, when he passed by, he saw his captain actually stabbing a doll. What's the situation? Is it necessary to torture the poor doll like that? With the strength of the captain, there is no need to practice like this, right? Captain, what do you want? However, just as he was about to ask a question, he unexpectedly saw Sui Feng's dark face. It was so terrifying that he seemed to have fallen into a dark abyss instantly, and his hair was numb. Sui Feng said coldly, "What did you say?" "No. It's nothing. Captain, go ahead and prick whatever you want." Omaeda Marekio moved away step by step like a crab. Just when he was about to leave, he heard Sui Feng too. "Wait a minute." Quote. Omaeda Marekio said with sweat on her face, "What's the matter?" "Captain. I want all the information about Spiritual Arts Academy students. I'll collect it immediately. The sooner the better." "Yes, my subordinates will definitely handle it." After finally leaving Sui Feng's sight, Omaeda Marekio disappeared in a flash. He himself never thought that his Shunpo would become so fast one day. After finally running far away, he leaned against a tree. What happened to Captain Sui Feng? His expression just now was so terrifying. He felt like he was almost killed. Who on earth provoked Captain Sui Feng? With Captain Sui Feng's strength and her status as the commander of the criminal army, who else in Seraiti can bully her? Moreover, we want the information of Spiritual Arts Academy students. Could it be that a student bullied the captain? How is this possible? Then he shook his head, feeling that he might have thought too much. The next day, Su Chen got up refreshed. Although she didn't sleep for long, she felt physically relaxed. Matsumoto Rangaku was still sleeping on the bed because he was too tired. Su Chen looked at her with tender eyes, covered her with a quilt and left the house. After Su Chen closed the door, Matsumoto Rangaku opened his eyes and felt Su Chen's full care for him, which made his heart warm. With some shame in his eyes, he got into the bed, breathed in the breath left by Su Chen, closed his eyes peacefully and continued to sleep for a while. However, what Matsumoto Rangaku didn't notice was that her belly was warm and there was already an extra CGEF of Su Chen's Reiatsu in her body. Although the quantity is small, the quality of Su Chen's Reiatsu is incomparable, and the intensity of her Reiatsu is changing little by little. The moment she shows off her power again, she will definitely be shocked by the strength of her Reiatsu. Su Chen was walking on the road, and unexpectedly saw Aizen Sosuke, and there was Kyoka Suigetsu's wave on him. "Why, you want to go to Spiritual Arts Academy with me too?" Aizen Sosuke put his hands in his pockets. "Of course my goal is you." Su Chen bought a sesame seed cake to eat and said while eating, "Are you so idle? Use Kyoka Suigetsu to pretend to be an ordinary student and wander around with me." Aizen Sosuke looked at the cake in Su Chen's hand and bought an identical one himself. "I've already finished handling the matters in the division. If there's anything important, I can rush back in time. Rather than those boring things, I want to observe you more. In my eyes, you are the person with countless secrets wrapped around you, the person who can bring me a lot of fun. It's up to you," Su Chen said without looking back. The two of them were eating cakes and walking towards the Spiritual Arts Academy. No one would have thought that a seemingly ordinary person next to Su Chen would actually be the captain of the 5th team. "Before I even stepped into the Spiritual Arts Academy, I was already at Urkion Wyoshui Sanin." When the three women saw Su Chen, they ran over. After seeing Su Chen, the three of them looked at each other. Makami Ruoshui looked at Su Chen faintly, as if he had discovered some secret. "Classmate Su Chen, the wine you gave us to drink before was not actually wine, right? It was a kind of spiritual spring." Spiritual spring. Aizen Sosuke thought for a moment after hearing this. Hirinji Tenshiro of the Zero Squadron is known as the Spring Hot Spring Ghost. He has two hot springs. One is the Bone Hell, which can squeeze out the Reiatsu and blood of the soaker. If a patient is immersed in water, their injuries will be discharged with Reiatsu and blood. But if you take a bath for too long, you will collapse and die, and you will be squeezed until only a pile of bones is left. Another one is that the blood pool hell is extremely hot and will enter the soaker's body through the skin, replenishing it with blood and Reiatsu. If the soaker's Reiatsu and blood are sufficient, the pool water will over-rejuvenate the person, causing the body to ulcerate. I wonder what the spiritual spring created by Su Chen has. The three women at this moment said, "We have all tested it, and now the three of us have the 6th level of spiritual power, which is equivalent to the Reiatsu level of the chief officer, and we have also awakened Shikai. And the reason for all this is you. Su Chen." Chapter 68. He has been standing on the clouds from the beginning. Interesting. Aizen Sosuke analyzed it. According to what they said, what Su Chen's spiritual spring can do is to enhance Reiatsu and awakening potential. Makami Uesui continued. "To prove this, we even bought wine to drink." Su Chen interrupted them and said nonchalantly, "Yes, your qualifications were indeed improved by me. I haven't asked your opinion on this, so I am arrogant." Makami, and the three women were just guessing before and were not completely sure. Now that they heard Su Chen's admission, they were no longer shaken. At this moment, they all knelt down in front of Su Chen in unison, put their right hands on their chests and said, "We are willing to follow you because you sacrificed your life." "Oh, why do you have such an idea?" Makami Uesui said. the strength of the three of us was given by you, so naturally we should work for you. Su Chen nodded. Okay, I already have my own plan. After I pass the assessment soon, I will join the Kido community and become the Kido leader. The three of you will join my team then. Yes. After the three girls left, Su Chen entered the Spiritual Arts Academy. Aizen Sosuke smiled and said, So Su Chen, are you going to be the Kido leader? It seems that Su Chen, you are also going to establish your own power. I'm really looking forward to it. How about I join your Kido group when the time comes? Quote. Okay, come here and I'll give it to the vice captain to give you a pawn. Su Chen rolled his eyes. Aizen Sosuke joined his Kido crowd. If others knew about it, wouldn't they doubt his motives? Soon I arrived in front of Kyoto Kuranosuke's office. Unexpectedly, after pushing away, I saw an unexpected figure. Jinghong Mingzu said to Kyoto Kuranosuke, I saw clearly at the time that it was indeed Su Chen who saved me. I should thank him, and he purified so many Manos Grande, there should be a corresponding one. Achievements and awards. At this time Su Chen pushed open the door and entered. After seeing Su Chen, Jinghong Mingzu was stunned. The sun shone on her snow-white neck, which looked rosy. After seeing Su Chen, Kuranosuke Kyoto handed several documents in his hand to Su Chen. The graduation procedures have been completed. If you successfully intern at Soul Burial, you can graduate. But if you want to join a certain team, you still need to apply for the team's assessment. Only after passing the assessment can you join the team. Moreover, it seems that many people in the school already know about your annihilation of Manos Grande. Kyoto Kuranosuke looked at Su Chen in front of him and was very emotional. Unexpectedly, in just a few days, he had already graduated from the Spiritual Arts Academy, and it seemed that there were three same students in the class who had reached the vice-captain level of Reiatsu, awakened Shikai, and applied for graduation at the same time. People like Su Chen are destined to take off. At Spiritual Arts Academy, it is nothing more than Longyu Chinwan. From now on, it will be his day to take off. In the history of Soul Society, there must be something that belongs to him. As a witness, I don't know if I will have the opportunity to write down his story and tell it to the juniors of the academy hundreds of years later or thousands of years later. In their eyes, what they hear will be what's the name. Is it the story of a gifted student? Or is it the story of a genius captain? Or the story of God? After taking the formalities, Su Chen walked out. Unexpectedly, Jinghong Mingzu also trotted along to follow. That classmate Su Chen, thank you for saving me that day. You're welcome. Su Chen replied casually. Jinghong Mingzu bit her lip and looked at Su Chen's back. Doesn't this guy feel any use to himself? She is obviously the goddess that no one in school can catch up with, but in front of Su Chen, isn't it worth taking a second look from him? Jinghong Mingzu's confidence was hit for the first time. But Jinghong Mingzu still said, which division is Su Chen planning to join after graduation? I want to join the same division as Su Chen. Didn't you want to join the second team before? And you have passed the chief officer examination. But, Jinghong Mingzu mustered up the courage to raise her head, but classmate Su Chen saved my life, and I hope to repay this kindness. Under the sun, Jinghongju's high ponytail swung back and forth, like a proud wild horse lowering its head for the first time. Su Chen took a few glances and said, you should know which division one have joined soon. If you are still interested, you can come over at any time. Please give me flowers. Looking at Su Chen's leaving figure, Jinghong Mingzu was a little confused. What did Su Chen mean? Could it be that if Su Chen joins the team next time, there will be any big commotion? But at least he said what he wanted to say. Being able to follow Su Chen is also my choice. Walking down the street at Spiritual Arts Academy. You can feel that the people around you are paying more attention to Su Chen, and there is respect in their eyes. Have you heard? That is the most outstanding genius in our academy for 100 years. I graduated from the academy in just a few days, and even defeated several Manos Grande by myself. What? Manos Grande? Doesn't that require the strength of the vice captain to deal with it? He can actually defeat many of them by himself, and he has only learned for a few days and already has such a strong strength. It is truly heaven-defying. Hirano Kongjin couldn't help but feel emotional when he saw Su Chen's figure. When Su Chen first entered school, he was jealous of him and doubted his ability. Now when we meet again, he has been able to kill several voids by himself. I don't know when, I have reached the point where I can no longer see my back. Or, he was standing in the clouds from the beginning, it was unknown whether the plains were empty. Looking at Su Chen's leaving figure, Hirano Sora thought that maybe they wouldn't see each other again for a long time. Aizen Sosuke listened to the words of the people around him and said, Tisk, 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 it seems you are quite popular in the academy. Maybe when you become famous in the future, your story will be all over the academy. Come on, Su Chen said helplessly. If you had shown your strength during the academy, the noise would not have been much smaller. It's a pity that you are a Kyoka Suigetsu. Aizen Sosuke smiled but said nothing. Then the two came to the first team building. I saw a calligraphy and painting hanging on the hall of the team building. Written in handwriting is scrawled as fire. The soldiers should die to protect the court. If there is a court official who needs to die. P.S. I'm going to visit Tomb Sweeping Day tomorrow. Maybe the update will be delayed. Chapter 69 Su Chen vs Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. This is probably what Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni implemented after establishing the Gotei 13th Division. Perhaps 1,000 years ago, when dealing with the Quincy, Gotei 13 was still a cold killer organization. But in that battle, too many people died on both the Quincy and Soul Society sides. The corpses all over the sky were burned even by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's fire for a long time. Standing on the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, he began to think about life. For the first time, I think about what Zaraki should be and what the world should be like. Standing on the height of the captain of the first team, he looked down at the Zaraki and Rukongai that accommodated tens of thousands of creatures. That realm with no end in sight. Countless people, countless karma, countless causes, and countless consequences are all carried on his shoulders. Just because he is the captain of the Gotei. 520. Su Chen stepped into the first team's building. Unexpectedly, Aizen dared to follow him. Aren't you afraid that the captain will find out and kill Ryujin Jaka with one knife? Su Chen said jokingly. Captain Ryujin Jaka is indeed powerful. Even Yawatch from 1,000 years ago lost to him. It's a pity, it's a pity. Aizen Sosuke smiled. With Kyoka Suigetsu, he had already hypnosis most of the people in Seraiti, especially the people of Gotei 13th Division. So the two of them entered the first team's building with great swagger. No one came to question them during the process. As long as Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was here, the first team did not need any guards, because those enemies could not even withstand his Reiatsu alone. Su Chen came to the front of the captain and put down some formalities. I'm here to apply to join the Kido community and become a big Kido leader. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni looked at the document and put it down. He was not too surprised that Su Chen was ahead of schedule. After all, Su Chen had a captain-level Reiatsu. But graduating in just a few days still surprised him. And the choice is still the assessment of the elder Kido. You must know that Kido's training is not inherently powerful like Reiatsu, but needs to be learned. Su Chen has only been in school for a few days. How many Kido numbers can he master? Although some people think that Su Chen is fooling around, young people still have to give it a chance to know the cruelty of reality. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni took Su Chen all the way to Shunpo, and before leaving, he also took a wooden knife. After the two came to the open area of Rukongai. All around here is a desolate scene. The vegetation seemed to have withered. Under the desolate silence, everything around seemed to fade away and go away. The whole world fell into desolation. There are only two people left on opposite sides of the world. One is a majestic old man with a cross scar on his forehead, a long white beard and white eyebrows. One is a young man dressed in white, as graceful as a fairy, with a hint of indifference in his eyes, and a hint of laziness, with 3 knives hanging on his waist. The wind blew up the clothes on the two of them, stirred up Su Chen's hair, and blew up the old man's white beard. Shojiro Sasaki stood aside waiting for orders. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni stood with his sword horizontally. As long as you can use Kido to cut off the wooden sword in my hand, you will have passed the test. You can use any means. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni glanced at the 3 Zanpakuto on Su Chen's waist. I was a little surprised. Generally speaking, Shinigami will only get sealed state. Every acquisition of sealed state must be registered. Therefore, the only ones who can have 2 Zanpakuto are Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukataki. Unexpectedly, Su Chen could actually have 3 Zanpakuto. It seems that something happened that he didn't know about. However, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni didn't care. He stood there casually with his eyes narrowed, like an unshakable Mount Tai. It seemed like endless flames would erupt in the next moment. Aizen Sosuke found a good position and stood aside, with his hands in his pockets, watching the duel between Su Chen and Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni with great interest. Who will win? What fun! On one side is Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, who even he is not completely sure he can win. He is the captain of Soul Society and is known as the strongest Zanpakuto. On one side is Su Chen, who although they have played against each other before, can definitely be called a pervert. It seems that following Su Chen can really add some rare fun to my peaceful and boring life. Aizen Sosuke feels more and more that he made the right decision to follow Su Chen in the disguise of Kyoka Suigetsu. You can also see if Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni has any trump cards that he has not used yet, and prepare for future plans. Su Chen smiled and said, the old man doesn't even use Zanpakuto. Is this a bit exaggerated? Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was serious in speech and his expression was still solemn. I am not joking with you. The next moment, a force that could shake the earth emitted from Reiatsu Yamamoto's tempered body. Click, click, click. The earth of Rukongai actually cracked open inch by inch, and spiderweb-like cracks spread from the feet of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. Is just releasing a part of yourself, Reiatsu, already beyond the limit that Rukongai land can bear. Shojiro Sasaki, who was wearing Western clothes, kept retreating. I was even more horrified. It has been many years since I saw Lord Yuanlujai take action. Unexpectedly, When he took action again, he would still be in awe. Reiatsu felt extremely stressed just by being near this person. Facing Lord Genryuzai is like a human being facing an irresistible volcano. That kind of natural power is simply not something that a human body can withstand. Hoo. 1.0 Under that Reiatsu, the surrounding grass and trees flew around, and the strong wind howled. Under such Reiatsu, only Chen and Aizen Sosuke did not retreat. The strong wind blew their clothes loudly and clung to their bodies, outlining their slender and stable figures. Hey, Yan Tutu really has no sense of humor at all. Chen raised his hand. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni praised without a smile, your Reiatsu is good. I heard Kyoraku Shunsui mention that Chen has a captain-level Reiatsu. But the gap between captain and captain is also not small. Now it seems that Chen can be so relaxed under his Reiatsu. It seems that his Reiatsu is also the best among the captains. Now, Chen whispered. Hadō 3 Wei's Iron Wind Kill. Chapter 70 Old Man Sean's Fright, the Heaven-Defying Chen. Hadō 3 Wei's Iron Wind Kill. The next moment, a powerful Reiatsu was released from Chen's hand, and then turned into a golden dragon head. As Chen waved his palm down, the golden dragon head sprayed out a golden spiritual hurricane. It rushed towards Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni with lightning speed. Quick, this move is really too fast. Rather than saying it was fast, it was more of an accident. No one expected that Chen would raise his hand and hit Hadō in one move. Even Aizen Sosuke didn't expect this. He originally thought that Chen would be able to use high-level Kido, but he didn't expect that only Team Zero could master Hadō. Hadō is a Hadō that is independent of the general Kido system. Both the way of casting spells and the flow of spirit are different from ordinary Hadō. Each Hadō has a unique power. But it won't necessarily be stronger than high-level Kido. Reiatsu decides whether things like Hadō are strong or weak. The output Reiatsu is powerful, and the corresponding power of Hadō is great. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni didn't even expect that Chen would be able to use Hadō. In just a few days, Chen actually mastered Hadō. Sasaki Chojiro 26 couldn't believe his eyes. How could a student like Chen learn Hadō, which is only known by Team Zero? Could it be that Chen has already met with the people from Team Zero? In short, in front of Chojiro Sasaki, countless unclear mysteries suddenly appeared on the student in front of him. Roar. Under the golden hurricane, the powerful Reiatsu around Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was shattered as easily as glass. Chen, a Shunpo, came to Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, pointed his finger at Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's wooden sword and cut it off. In the eyes of everyone, Old Man Sean had no chance to react at this moment, because there was no time to react. However, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni is indeed Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. At the critical moment, he threw the wooden knife in his hand into the air. It first rose to a high point, then stayed in the air for a short time, and seemed to fall immediately. In an instant, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni greeted Chen with bare-handed white hits. Oh, white hits. Interesting. Needless to say, there is no need to say much about the level of white hits of Old Man Sean. This man who is equivalent to the history of Soul Society has already mastered the 4 skills of Zon Fist and Demon Walking to the ultimate. It can be said that he himself represents the pinnacle of Shinigami skills. A fist as hard as steel struck Chen's face, and Chen also responded with a punch that was not fancy. The two fists connected with each other with a roar. It seemed that what collided was not 2 flesh fists, but 2 iron fists, making a hard collision sound. The powerful force even turned into an explosive wind and wave, shattering the sleeves of the 2 men. The thick arms of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, which are full of scars, and Chen's seemingly slender but actually full of explosive muscles are revealed. In terms of pure physical strength, Chen is indeed not as good as Mr. Sean. A punch hitting Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was like punching a sword that has been tempered for thousands of times. In an instant, fists, elbows, palms, legs, and knees were exchanged hundreds of times. The more Yamamoto and Genryusai Shigekuni fought, the more frightened they became. If Chen's white hits level was like that of a beginner at the beginning, then in actual combat his white hits level improved rapidly and soon reached a level similar to his own. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni didn't expect Chen's comprehension speed to be so fast. Chen's white hits were obviously like a newbie when they first met. How could he improve so quickly? Is Chen hiding his clumsiness? When the last kick was taken, the 2 of them took a step back, and the wooden knife fell between the 2 of them and penetrated straight into the ground. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni said, "Boy don't underestimate me as an old man, just use your full strength. Who dares to treat you like an ordinary old man?" Chen gave a light compliment. "How did your white hits level improve so quickly?" Yamamoto asked in confusion. "Well, maybe I have some talent in white hits." Chen stood lazily and said casually. Looking at the unformed Chen in front of him, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. A little bit of talent. Your ability to practice white hits at a speed that can be called somewhat talented. Does that mean that other Shinigami will not be able to survive? Aizen Sosuke also did not expect that Chen could actually compete with Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni at a level above white hits, and it seems that Chen did not specifically practice white hits before. This level of understanding is truly heaven-defying. Although he is an unknown genius, many of his abilities are so powerful innately that they do not require any deliberate practice. However, Chen is really heaven-defying. His level is not that good at the beginning, but as the battle progresses, as the process progresses, you will feel more and more how terrifying Chen is, until Chen surpasses the limit again and reaches a new realm of God that does not belong to all living beings. Neither Chen nor Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni made the first move. In the eyes of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, Chen seemed to be just standing there casually, with flaws all over his body, but if you look closely, those flaws are not flaws, just because the opponent is Chen. Then Chen scratched his chin, which seemed to be itchy. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni glanced at Chen's unprepared right shoulder with 10 punches. Boy Su, you are too trusting. Oh, is it so? However, Chen smiled softly. From extreme stillness to extreme movement. As fast as lightning, he blocked Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's punch, and at the same time, his own fists fired dozens of punches in a short distance. Every 10 punches exploded with destructive energy within a few inches of distance. The history of the diagram of broken muscles and bones. What move is this? Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni couldn't help but be surprised. Shinigami's boxing technique did not include such a short-distance continuous burst of boxing, and it could make each punch weigh more than 1,000 pounds. Seeing this punch, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's almost silent heart seemed to be burning again. He couldn't remember how many years ago it was the last time he had such unexpected emotions. This is called Wing Chun. Chen said calmly. Did you create it? It's a boxing technique from my hometown. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni disapproved. Chen's hometown. What kind of decent boxing can Rukongai have in the 80th district? Today's young people are just humble. It is a good thing for young people to know how to advance and retreat, but they must not lose their momentum. Chen is speechless. To be honest, no one believes it these days. Aizen Sosuke was also shocked. He had never seen Chen's boxing skills before. Chapter 71 Kang. Aizen Sosuke thought he had seen Chen clearly, but he didn't expect that Chen's white hits level was so powerful that he could even create his own boxing technique. Every time when he thought he had seen through all of Chen's abilities, he was able to come up with various abilities that surprised him. Chen's body was really shrouded in all kinds of fog. I'm afraid this is what even the great spiritual book corridor cannot know. The secret of it, you can even create your own boxing techniques. You must know that boxing, palm and other hand skills are easy to learn but difficult to master. If you want to create groundbreaking methods or improve them, you need to practice over a long period of time. It is not something that can be accomplished in a day. Ordinary people will spend their whole lives unable to create a boxing technique. On the contrary, swordsmanship, etc. may seem dangerous, but in fact it is relatively easy to innovate in moves. It is easy for a new set of swordsmanship, and swordsmanship to appear, but are the new swordsmanship, and swordsmanship more powerful? It's hard to say. Shojiro Sasaki was even more surprised. Only he who has followed Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni for thousands of years can understand how powerful Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's white hits are. Although he didn't learn anything from Genryusai-sama, he had also dabbled in white hits. However, it was precisely because of this that he became more and more aware of the huge gap between himself and Genryusai-sama. No matter how he cultivates, Master Yuanlujai is like a huge mountain, and his end cannot be seen at all. However, at this moment, I didn't expect Chen to be able to use the white hits boxing technique that shocked Master Yuanlujai. Is it possible that Chen has only practiced for a few days and is already more powerful than himself, a person who has practiced white hits for thousands of years? There are such terrible people in the world, and it is completely impossible to judge them by common sense. After a fight, even though Chen punched Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni multiple times in the abdomen, tearing his clothes to pieces, revealing his steel body that had been tempered for many times, it still did not cause much damage. Of course, it was more defensive. Chen also did not use the full calendar. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni didn't expect that he would become the target of Chen's white hits experience. Su Shaoxi's understanding is indeed heaven-defying, but does this white hits go against the original intention of the Kido test? Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni said with some helplessness, he didn't expect that the Kido test would become the white hits test. Old man Sean wants to see Kido, no problem. But which Kido is better to use? Although Kido number 99-5 Swirling Dragons of Destruction can be used, it is obvious that the abilities of Kido above number 90 are too strong. It would be bad if one move could break the old man's bones. After all, he is not young at all. People who know it think they are bullying their elders. Kido, who is in his 80s, feels like he has no special features. At this time, Chen thought of the Reiatsu practice method of swallowing the sky and devouring the earth that he had used at first. It is said to be a Reiatsu training method, but it can actually be integrated into Kido. You tried to create your own Kido, and successfully understood the infinite reversal of Aoi. Close black lens bracket. You have successfully comprehended the unlimited technique. Close black lens bracket. The so-called Kang is a kind of attraction technique. To use Kang, you need to know what an unlimited technique is. The so-called unlimited technique can interfere with materials at the level of vessels and spirits and control space. It needs to be meticulous enough to be able to control a single spirit child. The principle is to bring the infinite series that converges in the paradox of Achilles, which should exist in magic, to reality. That is, this distance can be infinitely reduced indefinitely. Unlimited techniques can realize this concept in a certain space of reality. Its reverse rotation is expressed as absolute attraction, and the effect is to create a strong suction force, expressing the attraction centered on Kang. The maximum output can reach negative infinity, which is similar to a small black hole. At this time, Chen stretched out his hand and rubbed it slightly, and the distance between the two spirits on the ground instantly reached minus infinity. In an instant, a terrifying attraction burst out between the two spirit suns. Click, click, click. The earth was suddenly torn apart by an astonishing force. Chojiro Sasaki couldn't help but feel startled, and even his courage seemed to tremble. What happened? The earth is actually shaking. Then he saw a dark spot in front of Chen. It was supposed to be just a dark dot, but what he felt in that dark dot was a powerful attraction. And at the moment that point appeared, the surrounding light seemed to be distorted and attracted in. Even the light transformed by the spirit sun could not escape its power, so that the surroundings seemed to have suddenly darkened even though it was daytime. Same. What is this Kido? It's so scary. Chojiro Sasaki couldn't help but said in horror. The power of this Kido is truly terrifying. This thought flashed through Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's mind. I saw a piece of torn earth fragments converging towards the dark point in front of Chen's eyes. Aizen Sosuke also couldn't help but take a step back. This was the first time he had taken a step back while watching the battle. Before that, even if Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni used his own power, Aizen Sosuke never took a step back. Just because in Aizen Sosuke's eyes, from that seemingly insignificant dot of darkness, he felt an energy that was almost terrifying to the point of ultimate. He can be sure that the current performance is far from the limit of this kind of technique. If this technique is used to its extreme, it may even tear the entire Soul Society into pieces. Chen, what kind of monster are you? At the same time, somewhere in West Rukongai, Shihuin Yoruichi, who transformed into a black cat, is communicating with Urahara Kazuki. What appeared on the beam of light in front of him was the strange-looking man wearing wooden clogs, a striped hat, and holding a cane in his hand. However, this man was the former captain of the 12th Division, and he had a profound understanding of the principles and essence of things which earned him money. Different from Kuretsuchi Mayuri's inventive research, although Urahara Kazuki has not developed many pervert inventions, he has a very deep understanding of various theoretical research. What he understands is the principles and theorems of the operation of things, which he calls most plans and means. Man. Quote. How is the situation at Soul Society? Aizen Sosuke must have obtained the complete Hogyoku. According to the plan, there should be no need for Aizen Sosuke to stay in Soul Society after obtaining the complete Hogyoku. Now, my true self will be exposed and I will rebel against Soul Society. I don't know what step it has taken now. Urahara Kazuki said solemnly. After all, Aizen Sosuke's rebellion against Soul Society is not a trivial matter. He was even tricked by Aizen Sosuke 100 years ago. A person with both strength and brains like Aizen Sosuke can be said to be a big exception. Chapter 72. If you hold on to the Gote's heart, you can ensure stability in Soul Society 10,000 years. Generally speaking, people who have power are not very good at thinking. People with brains are not very good at strength. Anyone who can do both is a unique monster. Aizen Sosuke is such a monster. Moreover, Aizen Sosuke is not a person without executive ability. He has the ability to change the world and the heart to change the world. Such a person is extremely terrifying, and Urahara Kazuki cannot help but be careless. But what Urahara Kazuki didn't expect was what Shihuin Yoruichi said next. Chen didn't take me into room 46, so I don't know exactly what happened, but the only thing I can know is that Aizen Sosuke didn't seem to have anything to XP. Urahara Kazuki guessed. Unexpectedly, Aizen Sosuke didn't make any strange moves. In this way, there are several possibilities. The first is that the piece of Hogyoku he made is still in Chen's hands. Then the situation is actually beneficial to our side. After all, with a person like Chen who can't see his strength standing in front of him, even if he can't defeat Aizen Sosuke, he can still consume part of the opponent's strength. The second possibility is that Aizen Sosuke has obtained the complete Hogyoku, but he seems to have reached some consensus with Chen, so he did not reveal himself immediately. This possibility is very scary. Urahara Kazuki said very solemnly. If it is Aizen Sosuke alone, we may be able to stop it, but if it is Aizen Sosuke and Chen, the two of them standing together represent the history of this world. Chen is already extremely powerful, and Aizen Sosuke is a character of unparalleled strength. If these two characters are separated separately, maybe we still have a chance to defeat them one by one. If they join forces, then our hope of victory is very slim. No one can stop the flow of history. Perhaps it will be a good choice for us to join their team at that time. But this is also a last resort. If you can avoid killing the Spirit King, it's better not to kill the Spirit King. After all, no one knows whether the collapse of the three realms can be undone after killing the Spirit King. This kind of thing is not something that can be tried like an experiment. It is better not to risk it if you can. Shihoin Yoruichi was shocked. 047 is so scary. Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke are just two people, how can they represent the history of the world? Urahara Kazuki nodded. You don't understand, that's because I haven't fully seen the horror of Su Chen. That person and those two knives cannot be judged by common sense. Shihoin Yoruichi couldn't help but corrected. Wait a minute, after Su Chen came out of room 46, he seemed to have a third Zanpakuto, and he also used several different Shikai or solutions on the spot. 1. What? Urahara Kazuki was surprised. There is actually a third knife. And also being able to cast different Bankai. Plus room 46. Quote. An extremely terrible guess emerged in Urahara Kazuki's heart. Perhaps what Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke entered was the Great Spirit Book Corridor. And Su Chen's Zanpakuto can display all the Bankai abilities recorded in the Great Spirit Book Corridor. If this is the case, then Su Chen's strength is really terrifying. However, all this is just a hypothesis for now. No one knows what Su Chen's knife ability is. Urahara Kazuki took a deep breath and continued. There is another possibility, that is, Aizen Sosuke's original plan was to rebel against Soul Society and start his plan after acquiring Hogyoku. But, because of the appearance of Su Chen, or because of Su Chen, Aizen Sosuke temporarily changed his plan. If this is the case, then Su Chen is definitely an extremely terrible person. I didn't expect that he could even make Aizen Sosuke give in to him. Shihoin Yoruichi had already placed Su Chen in a very powerful position, but he didn't expect Urahara Kazuki to hold Su Chen even more powerfully than he did. Then she suddenly felt a powerful spiritual energy wave coming from afar, but even she who was here could sense the terrifying power. What is that? A pitch-black sphere rose in the distance. Although the distance was not very close, the terrifying suction force within it actually sucked in a large amount of the surrounding air, and even the communication screen was torn into pieces. 4. Sige, Katie and Yoruichi cannot understand. Urahara Kazuki, who saw this scene through the communication, couldn't help but take off his hat, revealing his eyes with a circle of black circles. At this moment, his eyes no longer had any laziness or casualness, but were full of a kind of dignified, wanting to see clearly the situation of Soul Society. However, after just one glance, the communication screen was torn apart by the power in the next second. Urahara Kazuki in the present world was deeply shocked. What kind of power is it that can even tear the signal screen into pieces? It seems to be a kind of dark energy, but because it is seen in the communication screen, it cannot be truly felt. There is still too little information that can be analyzed by Reiatsu. In short, even if Su Chen is a sudden appearance of fog, it is completely beyond my plan. Spiritual Arts Academy. Behind Zaraki Kenpachi is a petite and cute little girl. Came here. The students around him just felt his extremely terrifying Reiatsu, and a concept emerged in their minds: this guy is definitely a monster. Everyone was so frightened that they dared not speak at all. It wasn't until Zaraki Kenpachi left that he realized that his clothes were completely wet with cold sweat. Who was that just now? He had such a terrifying Reiatsu. When he walked by just now, it seemed like there were countless evil spirits holding swords on his neck, as if he would die if he moved. Have you not seen his picture? He is Zaraki Kenpachi, the captain of Team 11. What? He is actually the combat madman of the combat division. I heard that he seems to be from Zaraki district, Rukongai district 80. I don't know why he suddenly came to our school. That's right, there were two captain-level figures who came to look for Su Chen before. Could it be that Zaraki Kenpachi is also looking for Su Chen this time? Hiss. It shouldn't be possible. What on earth did Su Chen do to trigger three captain-level figures to look for him? Then Zaraki Kenpachi approached Kuranosuke Kyoto. You had a transfer student before, right? Where is he now? Zaraki Kenpachi asked straight to the point. After searching for a while in Rukongai, he finally came to the 80th district of Rukongai. However, after hacking through the 80th district, he still couldn't find Su Chen, so he returned to Seraiti. After some investigation, he learned that there seemed to be something the transfer student joined the Spiritual Arts Academy. It seems that the one who skipped the Reiatsu test and joined the Spiritual Arts Academy was probably a guy like himself who showed up in the 80th district of Rukongai and has a captain-level subordinate pressure. Kyoto Kuranosuke was also shocked when he saw Zaraki Kenpachi with a ferocious scar on his face and a fierce look on his face. What are you doing with classmate Su Chen? But as a teacher, he couldn't let this monster hack a good student like Su Chen to death easily. Otherwise, Seraiti would have lost a good seed. However, Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't look good on others. Since you don't want to tell me his whereabouts, why don't you come and fight me? Let me see how many blows you can take from me. It's a pity that there's no point in fighting you. I can defeat a scum like you with just one knife. Although Kuranosuke Kyoto was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat, in his eyes Zaraki Kenpachi was like a murderer, with a terrifying murderous aura exuding from his whole body, like someone who had been killed from countless hells. He is a person who exists solely for the excitement of fighting. Kenpachi is such a sword demon. But Kuranosuke Kyoto still has some integrity, I won't tell you. Even if you put a knife on my neck, you won't touch it. Zaraki Kenpachi picked up the broken knife with no scabbard and placed it on Kyoto Kuranosuke's neck. He laughed evilly, revealing a frail white fang. Since you want to die, I will satisfy you. At this time, Kusajishi Yakiru climbed out from behind Zaraki Kenpachi, reached out to Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder and said, "Hello, I am Kusajishi Yakiru, the deputy captain of the 11th Division. You're so young. A GN came here to find a transfer student named Chen. You may not know him very well. But you should know one thing. That is, he did not join the academy through the Reiatsu test, but directly joined the Spiritual Arts Academy. Do you know why this is?" Kyoto Kuranosuke shook his head, not sure. Kusajishi Yakiru explained. "I shouldn't tell you this matter, but I can only tell you now. In fact, Chen had a captain-level powerful Reiatsu from the beginning, and he was born in the Rukongai 80th district. Yes, that's why AGN wants to fight him, so you don't need to worry about him being killed." Kyoto Kuranosuke was shocked. What? Chen actually had a captain-level Reiatsu from the beginning. Although Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni previously wrote in a letter that Chen's Reiatsu was good, he thought it was only at the vice-captain level. After all, captain-level subordinates are extremely rare. Unexpectedly, Chen actually had a captain-level Reiatsu from the beginning. How terrifying that was. Then he glanced at the blade on his neck and could only say, "But I really don't know where Chen went. He just graduated and took the materials and left. Also, isn't your 11th division having a swordsmanship competition soon? I feel like Chen will go over and have a look, right?" Kyoto Kuranosuke always felt that this matter was beyond his control. Moreover, Chen's classmate association has gone for the assessment, so he probably won't go to any swordsmanship competition. This can be regarded as leading Zaraki Kenpachi in the wrong direction. It's a pity that even if Chen has captain-level Reiatsu, he probably can't be a match for Zaraki Kenpachi. After all, the guy wearing an eye patch in front of him is an absolute monster who lives by fighting. After Zaraki Kenpachi got the news he wanted, he took away the knife and left without looking back. It wasn't until Zaraki Kenpachi left that Kyoto Kuranosuke suddenly relaxed. Only then did he realize that at some point, his back was completely wet with cold sweat. The feeling just now was as if I had died once. It's terrible. At the moment when Kang Na's power exploded, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's face became serious. "Although I asked you to cast Kido, I didn't ask you to destroy Rukongai." What the hell? The next moment, Chen rubs. A sphere of about 6 meters in diameter made of a large amount of gravel was released and bombarded towards Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. "Everything will turn into ashes. Ryujin Jaka." An old voice sounded, and then a large number of flames rose up. The blazing heat seemed to burn everything. Boom. The sword slashed out. The high temperatures even melted the rocks into magma. However, even if that rubble is destroyed, the scene remained silent for a long time. Silence fell. Only the whistling wind kept blowing. And the crackling sound of burning. After a long time, no one spoke. Although the wooden sword in front of him has not been cut off yet. But there is no doubt that the moment Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was forced out of the Shikai, Chen already had enough time to cut off the wooden sword. Chen said, "Captain Yamamoto, I, Kido, should be qualified to be a waifu leader, right?" Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni also didn't expect that Chen could have such strength. I have to say that Chen's performance was really surprising. What was the name of that move just now? Kang. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni nodded. Needless to say, it must have been created by Chen. It is true that the waves behind the Yangtze River push the waves ahead. With a junior like you, if we hold on to the heart of the Gote, the Soul Society can be stable for 10,000 years. Chojiro Sasaki was shocked. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni has never made such an evaluation. Unexpectedly, in his eyes, Chen actually has such high potential. To be able to make Soul Society stable for 10,000 years, what kind of strength can it do? But Chen's move just now was indeed extremely powerful. But it seems that the power is only as powerful as a gravel. Why would Lord Genryusai say that? It seems that Lord Genryusai saw something deeper that he did not see. Chapter 73 Use fire, not gentleness. Shaozi, your eldest Kido passed the test. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni said to Chojiro Sasaki. Go and report to room 46. Yes. Chojiro Sasaki responded. The secret mobile team initially existed independently of Gote 13, just like the Kido people, and was not under the control of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. Later, the commander-in-chief of the secret mobile team also served as the captain of the second division, and the relationship between the two became closer. It is said that it is a concurrent role, but in fact it is more like a noble extending his hand into Gote 13. The so-called secret mobile team is actually the sharpest knife in the hands of the nobles and Central 46 against their own people. Once a noble discovers that a Shinigami is detrimental to him or may threaten his interests, he will be charged with various crimes, supplemented by various facts that are difficult to explain. Either betray Soul Society, or kill a colleague, and then use the knife of the secret mobile team to get rid of this person. This kind of internal knife is usually several times sharper than the external knife. After all, for the nobles, preserving their power is the most important thing. As for whether the Soul Society is destroyed, whether it is captured by the Hollow or the Quincy, that is secondary to them. Even now, the secret mobile team is still an assassination monitoring agency that takes orders from Central 46 and the nobles. The criminal army, secret guards, etc. inside have done many shady things for the nobles. The Kido people are also an organization independent of the Gote 13th Division. It can be said that Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni has no way to order the Great Kido Chief, nor is he qualified to decide who can become the Great Kido Chief. It's just that after this assessment, the Kido level proved to be enough to serve as a senior Kido Chief. In this case, I will take my leave. Shojiro Sasaki took Su Chen all the way to room 46. Wearing a suit-like outfit, his hair and beard also have a Western style, and he walks with an unhurried elegance. Su Chen looked at his figure and said, "You and Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni seem to be working well together." Shojiro Sasaki nodded, indeed. 2. His eyes were looking into the distance, as if he was remembering something. When I planned to follow Master Genryusai more than 2,000 years ago, I became his deputy just to make up for the aspects that Master Genryusai could not take into account. When he chooses Chinese food, I choose Western food, he likes Chinese food, and I like Western food, he likes traditional culture, and I like Western culture, he likes drinking tea, and I like cultivated tea. I didn't ask Master Yuanlujai to teach me anything. Only in this way can I better assist Master Yuanlujai. Because I know that it is impossible for me to surpass Mr. Genryusai in what he is good at. As long as I can do things that Mr. Genryusai cannot take into account, I can assist him to achieve his 1127. Su Chen looked into the distance and said, "No, it's not just you who made Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekoku. You both made each other successful and helped each other. The two of you are perfect together. In Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekoku, you definitely have a different meaning in my eyes." Shojiro Sasaki did not reply, but there was deep emotion in his eyes. What is Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni to him? He is the object of his admiration, the person he admires, and the person he will assist throughout his life. Soon the two came to room 46, and of course Aizen Sosuke followed Su Chen. The current 46th room has all been killed by Aizen Sosuke, so there were no surprises in the appointment process. It was logical that Su Chen became the chief Kido. And he also obtained a residence, a mansion with Kido people, and many of Kido people's subordinates. Shojiro Sasaki was also a little surprised. He didn't expect Su Chen to pass the examination of room 46 so easily. It seemed that without much thought, room 46 agreed to Su Chen's conditions. It seems that the 46th room in front of me feels a little different from the previous 46th room, and it is a little more pleasant. Shojiro Sasaki looked up and found that the 46 elders in front of him were still alive and in excellent health, so he didn't worry about anything anymore. After Shojiro Sasaki left, only Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke were left 40 meters away. Throwing the big Kido token in his hand, Su Chen looked at Aizen Sosuke and said, "Maybe your approach has merit." Aizen Sosuke pushed up his glasses and said calmly, "Innovation requires fire, not gentleness." He had a gentle and elegant look on his face, but what he said was the complete opposite. In the past, Kuchiki Hibiki and Karyashiki Kenpachi were both feared by the nobility because they were too powerful. As long as the game is played within the framework of the nobility, it is impossible to overthrow the existing system with human power. But you and I are different. Aizen Sosuke smiled and said, "If you and I join forces, even if we make the entire Soul Society our enemy, what can they do? One more thing, I'm very curious about the Kang you used just now." Quote. Su Chen smiled and said, "Do you want to experience the feeling of blue? That's not bad. Let me tell you a story. Do you believe that no matter how fast you are, you can't outrun the turtle?" Su Chen said. "How do you say this?" Aizen Sosuke was a little curious. If it were anyone else, he would definitely think that the other person was a madman, but the person who said this was Su Chen, so he had to listen to his theory. 0.0. Suppose there is a person and a turtle. Su Chen took a branch, squatted down and drew a Shinigami and a turtle on the sand, one at the back and one in front. The speed of a turtle is 10 meters per second, and the speed of a human is 100 meters per second. The turtle starts 100 meters ahead of the man. When the person ran to the turtle's position, the turtle had already advanced 10 meters. When the man ran to 110 meters again, the turtle had already advanced some distance. In this way, Shinigami will never be able to catch up with the turtle. To put it simply, the pursuer should first reach the starting point of the chased person. At this time, the chased person has already moved forward for a certain distance. Therefore, the chased person is always in front of the pursuer. Aizen Sosuke thought about it seriously and felt like he was about to grow a brain. Chen stood up and said with a smile, "Do you think this theory is ridiculous? This kind of infinite segmentation is simply impossible in reality." Aizen Sosuke nodded. He always felt that the structure of Chen's head was different from that of ordinary Shinigami. If he were a researcher, he would definitely want to slice and study Chen's head. You're right to think it's magic, but circles can bring magic into reality. Chen chuckled lightly and stretched out his hand. The next moment, something shocking happened to Aizen Sosuke. 4. Chapter 74 Hadō no 90 Black Coffin. The next moment, the endless space was divided and shrunk in front of Chen's eyes. A large amount of space is compressed into a very short distance. Everything in front of me was like a scene in a movie. Space is constantly folding and shrinking. And the various scenery in this space also turned into various incredible patterns. Then Chen grabbed Aizen Sosuke's shoulders and took him a step forward. Take one step. The next moment, they seemed to have traveled a huge distance, and everything around them seemed to be speeding. In just a moment, he arrived at the gathering place where everyone in Kido was gathered. The location of the Kido crowd is on a flat land beside a river, near a place in the suburbs. After all, if you want to practice Kido in a crowded place, it is easy to cause damage and killing. After seeing Chen's move, Blue 713, Sosuke said with some surprise, "I didn't expect this ability to have the power of space transfer." The former chief Kido, Tessai Tsukubishi, also had a similar ability, but it was listed as a forbidden technique by Room 46 and was prohibited from use. At this time, a group of people from the Kido crowd also came out. After seeing Chen and Aizen Sosuke, he immediately asked, "Who are you, and why did you break into the Kido people's residence?" Because of Kyoka Suigetsu, in their eyes Aizen Sosuke is not his original appearance, but an ordinary Shinigami wearing black clothes, wearing a pair of glasses, and having a passerby face. If placed in anime, it would be a character who doesn't survive 3 episodes. At this time, Chen took out the token and said, "I am the new Chief Kido, and you will all be my subordinates from now on." The sudden appearance of the big Kido token made everyone panic. Since Tessai Tsukubishi's rebellion, the Kido people have been without a Chief Kido and a Deputy Kido for a long time. One characteristic of the Kido crowd at first glance is that most people do not have Zanpakuto in their hands. The former Aiz Nanao chose to join the Kido community because she could not adapt to the sealed state, but had excellent Kido talent. With her Kido talent, she felt that she should be able to get a place in the Kido community, but she was manipulated by Kiraku Shunsui behind the scenes. Arrive at the 8th division. After all, if Zanpakuto can be conquered, everyone would rather join the Gote 13 than the Kido crowd. Therefore, in the eyes of many Gote 13 people, the Kido people are just doing logistics and have little combat effectiveness. Soon everyone started talking. What's going on? Why did a big Kido commander suddenly land in the air? Then the ordinary-looking guy next to him is the deputy captain Kido. These two people look like they have no qualifications at all. No way, are we actually going to work under these two people? I can already foresee my dark future. After hearing the discussion of these people, Chen smiled at the people in front of him. You are not convinced, aren't you? Then a muscular man with a fiery red afro jumped out from the crowd. Sheshang Lubu pointed at himself with a thumb and said to Chen and Aizen Sosuke, "I don't accept it. I have the guts to challenge them." At this time, a man named Sheshang Wubu, who had long, smooth hair and looked gentle and elegant, came out. He held a broken handful in his hand and knocked it on the head of the strong man, and sighed. My stupid brother. This person in front of me is the token of the great Kido. So what if you object? Don't you want to disobey the order of 40 room? Use your brain more before doing things. Although Sheshang Lubu had a hot temper, he only grumbled a few times when his elder brother taught him a lesson. He was like a child who had been taught a lesson and did not dare to say anything harsh to the sickly-looking elder brother in front of him. My name is Sheshang Wubu, and this is my brother Sheshang Sixbu, see the great Kido. He took 5 steps forward and bowed. After taking 6 steps away, he crossed his arms with a look of dissatisfaction. Seeing this scene, Chen smiled. These brothers were quite interesting. It's okay if you don't agree with me, but you're not strong enough to challenge me. Let's do this. As long as you can defeat my second in command, I won't let this big Kido grow up. Chen patted Aizen Sosuke on the shoulder. Aizen Sosuke glanced at Chen helplessly. Why did I become your deputy? Chen pretended to be surprised and said, "Ah. You clearly said you wanted to join my Kido group before, and I also promised to give you the position of adjutant, have you forgotten?" Kosuke. When he said the last 2 words, he patted Aizen Sosuke on the shoulder. Aizen Sosuke was speechless. First of all, it was a joke. Secondly, his name was Sosuke, not Sosuke. If it were someone else's request, Aizen Sosuke would definitely ignore it. However, Since Su Chen's request, I reluctantly do something for him. Anyone who gives me Hogyoku will be given as a gift. Aizen Sosuke took a step forward, looked at the hundreds of Kido members in front of him, and said calmly, all of you, come up together. She took 5 steps forward and wondered if there was something wrong with her ears. What did you just say? The other Kido people also looked shocked. Just now, this person actually asked them all to come together. No way. If so many of them were to fight together, 1 Kido per person would be enough to unleash an extremely terrifying power, and I am afraid that most captain-level experts would have to avoid the edge temporarily. When Sheshang Lubu heard this, he was very happy and said, hurry up. He rolled up his sleeves and rushed forward. At this time, Aizen Sosuke raised his palms with his palms raised, and said softly, Hadō's 90, black coffin. In an instant, a large amount of pitch-black space turbulence erupted. Include hundreds of Kido people in front of you. A 1.6 pitch-black coffin of death was formed. When black coffin was formed, the people inside had already suffered countless deaths. Finally, Aizen Sosuke turned around confidently, and the black coffin behind him shattered and disappeared. The Kido people who were arrogant just now all fell down with blood spurting out. At this moment, there is only deep fear in their hearts. What's the situation? As soon as he raised his hand, Hadō number 90 was chanting. And the range can cover hundreds of people. This deputy Kido looks harmless enough, but he actually has such terrifying strength. Isn't the strength of the big Kido even more terrifying? I didn't feel so uncomfortable after giving up 5 steps, but felt very happy. Because there are 2 strong men like this, we can wait for the day when Kido will be prosperous. Oh, Chapter 75 Aizen's Horror, Incomprehensible. Fortunately, Aizen Sosuke's move seems to be quite powerful, but in fact it doesn't use much Reiatsu, it just acts as a deterrent. But being able to knock down so many people with one move still aroused the horror of these Kido people. Who is this? How can one move be so powerful? As expected of Deputy Captain Kido, even Hadō number 90 can break the chant and still retain such great power. And he is only the Deputy Kido commander. Wouldn't the elder Kido commander's strength be even more impressive? Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Seeing the scene where Aizen Sosuke caused serious injuries to everyone, Su Chen sighed. Zonsuk, I asked you to give them a blow, not to give them a chance to breathe. Aizen Sosuke said expressionlessly. They are too weak to hold back. Question mark. What does it mean to be too weak? What does it mean to not hold back? Alas. Su Chen shook his head, and the light from the Kaido field in his hand lit up. That's right. Su Chen has upgraded the Kaido that can be used on a single person to the level of the Kaido field, and can treat multiple people at once. All Kido people recovered quickly from their injuries under the treatment of Kaido's light. A look of surprise appeared on his face 5 steps up. I didn't expect that Kaido treatment would be carried out on such a large scale with the help of Kido. It's so scary. If it was within the scope of understanding that Deputy Kido was able to perform Kido number 90 just now, judging that such a large-scale Kaido treatment was completely beyond the scope of understanding. After all, although Kido number 90 is powerful, the Kido people, as the name suggests, are all people who are good at Kido. Although there are not many people who can use Kido number 90, they are not comparable. It's just that they can't sing like Vice Captain Kido. As long as they are given time to prepare, they can sing Black Coffin. But in actual combat, the situation changes rapidly. How can the enemy stand still and not let you finish the chant? It is precisely because of this that Kido's combat power has never been very high, and they only do some logistical chores. Kido people also have one characteristic, that is, they are afraid of being approached. A type of mage similar to long-range attacks. Once you get close and you don't have time to chant, you will be easily captured. If no 90's Hadō is still within their understanding, then Su Chen's Kaido realm has completely transcended the concept of Kaido. In their impression, Kaido was just a one-to-one delicate spirit level repair. How could someone treat so many people at the same time, and do it so easily? The amount of calculations required alone is enough to exceed the computing power of the average Shinigami brain. He truly deserves to be a great Kido leader, and this groundbreaking move is already breathtaking. Soon, everyone in Kido stood up. At this moment, they were all convinced. Sheshang Lubu patted his chest and made a few muffled sounds. Since I lost, from now on my life will only depend on the orders of the great Kido. Su Chen nodded slightly and said, take me around Kido's residence. Yes, because of Taoist priest. Sheshang Wubu held a folding fan in his hand and led Su Chen around the Kido crowd's residence. First we came to the big Kido room. This will be your future office area. Su Chen looked at this place. There is a simple desk, a wardrobe, a set of tea bowls, a straw mat on the floor, a few round futons, and an unlit incense burner. Although it had just been opened, there was no moldy smell that had not been ventilated for a long time. Sheshang Wupao. Although the position of Chief Kido has been vacant for a long time, I have always sent people to clean it, looking forward to the emergence of an unprecedented leader. Actually, before you took office, Kido was basically managed by my brother and I. Although he and I are only 5 and 6 seats away. The seats in the front seats are temporarily vacant, so the management responsibility falls on my brother and I. And because we Kido members don't have a senior Kido captain and a deputy Kido captain, our team members are usually bullied by some Shinigami, but they dare not speak out. So a gentle person like me can't stay out. It's because of my brother's fierce look on his face that he scares away many people. So if there's any offense, I'd like to ask you too, Sir Heihan. Chen nodded slightly but didn't say much. He took 5 steps up and took out a dark cloak. This dress is the dress worn by our Kido master Kido chief, you can take a look at it 10 times. Chen picked up the clothes and observed them. It was a piece that looked a bit like Captain Haori, both wearing the Death Tyrant uniform. It's just that the Captain Haori is white, and the big Kido is black. This is a high-collared cloak with gold trimmings on the edges, giving it a noble look. There is also a mark representing Kido on it. Quote. Maybe this dress still doesn't match your figure. How about you put it on again after we finish modifying it? No, it's too much trouble. Chen shook his head, gathered the spirit seeds in his hands, slightly changed the spirit structure of the clothes in front of him, and then put it on his body, and it immediately fit him. Sheshang Wubu was not too surprised when he saw it. He just felt that this was a kind of Kido that he didn't know. But Aizen Sosuke couldn't help but shrink his pupils when he saw this scene. This is definitely no simple Kido. He slowly raised his head and couldn't help but stare at Chen's side face in deep shock. The move just now was definitely not Kido, but involved something more fundamental. It has even reached the level of manipulation of a single spirit child. This is really terrible. Spirit manipulation is almost like being able to change the things you want to change at will. You can even create things out of thin air. If your own ability is strong enough, you can even plunder other people's Kido, Reiatsu, etc. Unexpectedly, with such a powerful ability that is almost like the authority of a god, Chen would actually use it to change clothes. Can't understand. Chen, what exactly do you think? What's wrong? Are there flowers on my face? Chen turned around and asked. Aizen Sosuke turned his head away and said nothing. Chen didn't ask any questions. After putting on the big black Kido costume, he outlined his slender and perfect waistline. The wide cloak made him present a stable triangular structure, showing a transcendent aura. Handsome and haughty, I am afraid that as long as a girl sees Chen, her heart will beat faster. Let's go. Let's go look elsewhere. Chapter 76. Kill instantly with one sword, high spiritual power from Chen. He walked up 5 steps and looked at the backs of Mr. Chen and Mr. Zongji. Looking at the two extremely handsome people, he felt an inexplicable sense of pride in his heart. Their stable figures and slightly tilted postures express their indifference to worldly affairs, and their eyes reveal a sense of confidence and laziness that they have everything under control. Maybe there is such a person in Kido who will shine one day. At this moment, Squadron 11. The swordsmanship competition is in full swing. The ones fighting on the field are Hinamori Momo and Aizen Nanao. Both of them have the habit of reading, and they usually meet up as friends to read together. At this moment, the two men were fighting in the snow. Aizen Nanao is a woman who looks slender, has purple eyes, wears thin-rimmed glasses, and has her bangs swept to the right and fixed with a hairpin. She looks full of intellectuality and aloofness. Hinamori Momo is a petite girl who looks harmless with a cute bun wrapped in a white cloth with rose lace on the back of her head. The battle between the two seems to be that Aizen Nanao is attacking with Kido, while Hinamori Momo with Zanpakuto is constantly dodging and looking for flaws. At this time, 500 Kusajishi Yakiru in the stands grabbed Zaraki Kenpachi's clothes with both hands and lay on him. It seems like Hinamori Momo is at a disadvantage. But this is why Kusajishi Yakiru doesn't know Hinamori Momo's health bar. How can Hinamori Momo, who can directly block the attacks of several captains, die so easily? Not even Aizen Sosuke could stab her to death. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't care about these things at all. A pair of eyes with murderous intent and excitement searched everywhere in the field, but unfortunately he still could not find Chen. This made him very unhappy, and his body also exuded a terrifying wave, which made the 3 seats of the 11th Squadron Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa Yumashika both retreated. Ayasagawa Yumashika had a beautiful colorful peacock-like feather attached to the eyebrow of her right eye, and wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Did Captain Zaraki get any stimulation this time? He seemed a little impatient, and he was not as elegant as before. Quote. Madarame Makaku has a bald head. He has removed the troublesome hair that needs to be taken care of every day. He has red eye shadow on the corners of his eyes. His long and narrow eyes make him look very fierce. He carries Zanpakuto on his shoulders, that's needless to say. Is it? These people must be too weak, and no one can make the captain excited about fighting. At this time, a change occurred on the battlefield. Hinamori Momo seized an opportunity, and when Aizen Nanao was chanting Kido, Shunpo approached her. In an instant, Zanpakuto unsheathed and slashed at Aizen Nanao. After being approached, Aizen Nanao had no considerable way to deal with it, so he was naturally defeated and had a shallow wound on his arm. After Hinamori Momo won, she quickly helped Aizen Nanao up and used Kaido to treat her. Is it okay, Nanao? I'm fine, Dao. Aizen Nanao pushed up her glasses. The pain on her arm did not change her color at all. I am very happy that you can defeat me with all your strength. I have also been looking forward to fighting you. Hinamori Momo smiled softly and said, "Oh, Nanao, it's because you don't have Zanpakuto. If you contain the sealed state, you will definitely be more powerful than me. I just don't know where Captain Aizen has gone. He disappeared after handling team affairs early in the morning. He just told me that I can contact him using the communication tool." Eyes Nanao touched Hinamori Momo's head. "Don't worry, Captain Aizen must have something important to do, so he left the team temporarily." Yes. Hinamori Momo nodded heavily. After all, that was Captain Aizen whom he admired most. Then the next match is Matsumoto Rangaku vs. Hiraiiziru. Hiraiiziru has bright yellow hair, and his long bangs cover his left eye, revealing only a blue right eye. The direction of his bangs is exactly opposite to that of Eyes Nanao, one on the left, one on the right. After the two came on stage, Matsumoto Rangaku, who was wearing a baggy CGDI costume, was still slapping her mouth sleepily, but even the most generous CGDI costume could not hide her amazing figure. It seems that Ms. Matsumoto didn't sleep well last night. Hiraiiziru stroked the Zanpakuto in her hand. Well, it's not that I didn't sleep well, it's not that I slept happily. It's just that someone's ability is a bit too powerful, which makes me a little distressed. Matsumoto Rangaku couldn't help but feel a little sleepy. I started to wash up after getting up, but when I brushed my teeth, I found that my cheeks were still numb. It was because I had consumed too much last night. Do you need me to let you do that? OPJ. Matsumoto Rangaku smiled and said, "No, just use your full strength." Okay. Hiraiiziru's eyes became serious, carrying 10 kinds of dangerous auras. As the signal to start the competition fell, the two immediately dialed Zanpakuto to start the battle. When? A clash of knives without any fanfare. Hiraiiziru originally thought that this sword attack would be the same as usual, with no winner or loser between the two. After all, this is not the first time Hiraiiziru has fought against Matsumoto Rangaku, and the two usually have similar experiences. As for opening Shikai to fight against two people, I haven't tried it yet. However, when the sword touched, something happened that shocked Hiraiiziru. With a bang, a powerful Reiatsu burst out from Matsumoto Rangaku's Zanpakuto. That kind of force knocked him away like a cannonball. It didn't stop even after it hit the ground. It plowed a trace hundreds of meters long on the ground. All the surrounding gravel was smashed into pieces. The ground was destroyed like paper, revealing what was underneath the gravel. Brown Mud King. With a pop, Hiraiiziru spit out a mouthful of blood, and even his arm was shaking. The knife just now had cracked the jaw of his knife, and blood was flowing out. But more than the physical injuries, what shocked him more was that he was defeated with just one blow. How can it be? When did Matsumoto Rangaku become so powerful? Has her Reiatsu reached the 4th level? Generally speaking, the spiritual power of deputy captain level characters is 4th to 5th level. Level 3 and above are captain level characters. And he and Matsumoto Rangaku were both 5th level spiritual powers before. At this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku's sword has clearly reached the 4th level of spiritual power. What happened? In such a short period of time, the progress has been so rapid. Matsumoto Rangaku also didn't expect that he would beat Hiraiiziru like this with just an ordinary swing of his sword. Could it be said that his spiritual power has been promoted to the 4th level? Then she felt a warm current in her abdomen flowing little by little toward her limbs and bones, being absorbed by her own soul. Every spirit in her body seemed to be excited, able to obtain the energy of high spiritual power. Excited. Could it be that? Chapter 77 Beyond Shinigami's life level. She couldn't help but reach out and touch her abdomen, where the Reiatsu left by Su Chen still seemed to remain. What I did to Su Chen yesterday, and the Reiatsu I got from him. Coupled with today's changes in strength. If you analyze it, there will be several possibilities. The first is that Su Chen possesses extremely high spiritual power, far beyond the average captain level. Even a drop of Su Chen's blood possesses extremely powerful spiritual power, far exceeding that of himself as the vice captain. Therefore, by absorbing his Reiatsu, you can easily improve your own strength. Even when Su Chen reaches a certain level of strength, his blood, his eyes, his internal organs, and his hands all have the power to awaken special abilities in others. If it reaches that point, it is transcendence on the level of life. That kind of power is no longer Shinigami. The second is that Su Chen has a special physique and can enhance himself through his actions that night, but this is relatively rare. Matsumoto Rangaku fell into deep doubts. Isn't Su Chen an ordinary-looking student? Why have such a powerful Reiatsu? Could it be that Su Chen has any unknown secrets? I always feel that although I have spent a lot of time with Su Chen, my understanding of him is only about daily life, and I have not really experienced Su Chen's power. After Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke came out of Kido's residence. Su Chen has 3 long knives hanging on his waist, and Aizen Sosuke has 1 hanging on his waist. The two of them walked in tandem, and there was a bit of silence along the way. No one spoke first. Aizen Sosuke glanced at Su Chen and said, "What's the deal with the name Sosuke?" Su Chen held a piece of grass in his mouth and said leisurely, You have to have a name when you are with me, right? You can't call me Aizen, and you can't call me Sosuke. Sosuke is just fine. And Sosuke can read quickly. It's almost the same as Tongzong. Aizen Sosuke is ashamed, can this be similar? But what Su Chen said is not unreasonable. Sosuke. Just Sosuke. As the two walked along, they met Aizen Nanao and Hinamori Momo who came out of the 11th Division. At this time, Aizen Nanao's arm was wrapped with a white bandage, revealing a section of her arm as white as snow. The two of them were talking and laughing along the way. At this moment Hinamori Momo seemed to see Su Chen and waved to him, "Ah. Su Chen." But after waving her hand, she felt that she might have made a mistake. Seeing the handsome black feathers on Su Chen's body, my heart skipped a beat and my face turned a little red. You are wearing a big Kido costume. Aizen Nanao also looked at Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke. It's just that Aizen Sosuke, who is using Kyoka Suigetsu at this time, looks ordinary. Standing next to Su Chen just brings out Su Chen's appearance, making it even more amazing. After Aizen Nanao glanced at Su Chen, she couldn't help lowering her head. Her neck was a little red, and her heartbeat felt a little accelerated. How can there be such a good-looking person in the world? Although they are a little moved, they also know that as a Shinto family, they are not worthy of love. The Ai's family, which inherits the 8-mirror sword, is a female family and basically requires men to enter the family. The children they give birth to must also be female. However, the man who is in trouble always doesn't live long, so there is also the saying of Kefu. Aizen Nanao's mother wanted to end Kefu's curse, so she did not choose to let her husband's family suffer, but married into Kyoraku Shunsui's brother's family. But the curse was still there, and Kyoraku Shunsui's brother died not long after. This made Aizen Nanao's mother realize that the problem might be with the Kenpachi mirror sword they had on them. The 8-mirror sword, like the Tsunayashiro family's Anora mirror code, has been passed down from generation to generation from ancient times, and is not a Zanpakuto exclusive to any one person. And both Zanpakuto are burdened with some kind of curse. The 8-mirror sword is Kefu. Yenluo Jingdian is chipping away at the soul moment by moment. It can be seen that the ability of the 8-mirror sword is extremely powerful, even comparable to that of Yenluo mirror sword. These two Zanpakuto were not made by Namaya-O. It is precisely because of being burdened with such a curse that even if she sees someone who is a little moved, Aizen Nanao will restrain her feelings and never let herself have any fluctuations. When she saw Su Chen, this was the first time she blushed and her heart beat. Hinamori Momo was shocked when she saw the clothes on Su Chen. After looking left and right, he found that there was no one around, and then he hurried forward and put on Su Chen's clothes. A pair of small hands rubbed all over Su Chen's body. Su Chen couldn't help but reached out and grabbed Hinamori Momo's clothes at the back of her neck, lifted her up like a cat, lifted her feet off the ground, and asked angrily, "What are you doing? Why are you taking off my clothes? I'm saving you, can't you see? I didn't expect you, Su Chen, to be so courageous, even daring to steal Kido long clothes to wear. The Chief Kido is directly appointed by Central 46. If you pretend to be the Chief Kido, you will definitely be jailed. I kindly helped you take off your clothes before anyone noticed you, but you didn't blame me." Snort. Hinamori Momo was hanging in the air, slapping his hands and feet around, obviously a little angry. Duh. Su Chen was a little helpless. Can't I be the one who becomes the Chief Kido? Hinamori Momo rolled her eyes at Su Chen. Please, you were a freshman at the Spiritual Arts Academy a few days ago, how could you become a principal in a few days? Do you know how strict it is to become a senior Kido? Do you know how difficult it is to be a senior Kido? Do you know how difficult it is to get the recognition of the 46th chamber? Not to mention the freshmen who have just joined Spiritual Arts Academy a few days ago, even those who have graduated many years ago will not be able to become the Chief Kido, otherwise the position of the Chief Kido would not have been vacant for so many years. Aizen Nanao was also shocked when she saw this, and quickly stepped forward to hold Hinamori Momo's little hand. I thought you were a gentle and simple woman, but I didn't expect that I misjudged you today. You actually picked up Hinamori Momo on the street. Men's clothes are really. Hinamori Momo quickly shook his head and waved his hand. Nanao, it's not what you think. I have known Su Chen before. He is just a freshman at Spiritual Arts Academy. Think about it, a person who just joined Spiritual Arts, how can a freshman at Academy become a big Kido leader? So this dress was either custom made by himself at the tailor or stolen from the Kido crowd. I asked him to take it off to help him. It's definitely not a matter of lust. When Aizen Nanao heard this, he immediately felt that it made sense. So he quickly stretched out a pair of soft hands, with long fingers and white nails, which seemed to glow faintly in the sun, as beautiful as the petals of a peach blossom. It's just that such beautiful hands are touching Su Chen's body at this moment, trying to take off his clothes. Su Chen was really speechless. I really want to shout, help, there is a female gangster. How dare you act like this in broad daylight? Is there any royal law? Su Chen didn't struggle and let the two girls take off his clothes with their little hands. Not to mention that someone was taking off his clothes, it really felt like an ancient emperor. With his hands open, the maid helped him take off his clothes or put on his clothes. After the two took off their clothes, Aizen held Su Chen's clothes in her arms. Although her face was still pale, her ears were red for some reason, especially her small nose, which was wrinkled. Wrinkled, it seems to be smelling something. Ahem. Please give me flowers, 0. Su Chen said seriously. Have you ever thought that I am the elder Kido? Hinamori Momo stretched out a finger and poked Su Chen's chest. Su Chen, stop joking, it's easy to get into trouble. Nanao, let's quickly return the clothes to the Kido crowd. Eyes Nanao didn't speak and nodded. After taking off his clothes, the 3 knives hanging by Su Chen became more obvious. Eyes Nanao couldn't help but wonder, why does Su Chen know 3 swords? This has never been seen in Soul Society. At this time, Hinamori Momo seemed to have finally discovered Aizen Sosuke next to Su Chen, and asked, Su Chen, who is this? He looks so ordinary. Su Chen couldn't help but feel ashamed, this is Captain Aizen whom you admire most. Now you can say, so ordinary. How would you feel if you were told the true identity of Aizen Sosuke? Hello, my name is Sosuke, and I am the deputy to Chief Kido Su Chen, also known as the Deputy Chief Kido. Aizen Sosuke didn't show anything and shook hands with Hinamori Momo calmly. Hinamori Momo said happily, ah, so your name is Sosuke, you must be Su Chen's classmate. It's a pity that you were dragged out by Su Chen to pretend to be Kido. It's really aggrieved. KRJ. Don't worry, you don't have to be afraid. As the deputy captain of the rescue team, I will stand in front of you to protect you. And Captain Aizen of our 5th division is definitely a super nice guy. He is very gentle. You can meet him if you have the chance. Aizen Sosuke smiled. That's a great honor. Su Chen patted his forehead. This is nothing. Can you two give me back my clothes? Da. The 2 women crossed their hands in front of their chests, indicating that they couldn't. However, at this moment, the 2 women felt a terrifying Reiatsu coming. The space in front of him seemed to be distorted by a strong pressure. Their eyes suddenly opened wide, their whole bodies lost consciousness, and they were unable to move. His knees were even softer, as if he had lost support and was about to fall to the ground. ... Both women's noses flowed out uncontrollably. Fortunately, Su Chen stepped forward and supported the 2 women. The 2 women's limp bodies leaned against him. Su Chen took the opportunity to touch 2 of them, and the buttocks felt quite good. Aizen Nanao's was bigger, and Mori Momo's little one was also very cute. And when they leaned against Su Chen, the terrifying Reiatsu dissipated instantly, but their bodies were still a little weak. Su Chen's clothes that Aizen Nanao was holding tightly in her hands also fell off, but they did not fall to the ground. Instead, they were caught between her and Su Chen's chests, and her chest was pressed tightly against Su Chen's. You can even feel his steady and powerful heartbeat in his chest. If someone touched her butt like this normally, Aizen Nanao would be so angry that she couldn't help but kill the other person, but at this moment, she had no time to take care of it. He just rolled his eyes at Su Chen, and after all this time, he was still in the mood to take advantage of him. Hinamori Momo snorted slightly, her face turned red as blood, and she quickly hugged her butt with both hands. Su Chen, how could he touch his own butt? However, their minds only paused here for a moment, and soon they shouted to Su Chen, run. Run. Why run? Only the weak need to run, don't you think? The next moment, Zaraki Kenpachi's figure fell in front of several people. The ground was smashed into a deep pit several meters in diameter. Wearing an eye patch, he looked even more ferocious, with a ferocious and crazy smile on his face. He squatted in the pit and carried a knife that had experienced thousands of battles on his back. Su Chen. Chapter 78. Kingly Posture, killing Zaraki Kenpachi instantly with one sword. During the swordsmanship competition, Zaraki Kenpachi is just too boring to watch. When I saw Matsumoto Rangaku actually killing Kira Izuru with one knife, I became a little interested. He jumped onto the competition platform, and the bell on his hair kept swaying, making a crisp sound. The reason why there are so many bells fixed on the hair is because the bells will make a sound when they move, which can let the enemy know their position clearly. Only in this way can you enjoy more fun of fighting. Come on, chop here. Use all your strength. Zaraki Kenpachi struck his chest with the hilt of the knife. Matsumoto Rangaku was shocked when he saw Zaraki Kenpachi. The hand holding the knife suddenly tightened. As you command, Captain Zaraki. Matsumoto Rangaku's figure Shunko disappeared from the spot and slashed Zaraki Kenpachi's chest with a knife. Zaraki Kenpachi just doesn't dodge. It's not like it's being cut on the flesh, but like it's being cut on some indestructible steel. The sword's intention cannot enter the body and be shared. Matsumoto Rangaku was shocked and his pupils couldn't help but shrink. He cut it down again and again, but it was still in vain. Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes also lost interest. I thought that the guy who could kill the vice captain with one blow would have some strength. Now it seems that it is nothing more than that. Too weak. All of them are too weak. Strong. Where is the real strong man? Seeing that his slashing attack was ineffective, Matsumoto Rangaku took a step back. Whispered. Mutter, Hineka. The next moment, the Zanpakuto in Matsumoto Rangaku's hand disappeared bit by bit and turned into gray smoke. And as the scope of the smoke expanded, these gray smoke gradually turned into transparent and colorless. After all, the air is actually full of dust, but it is rarely seen. 603 is because the dust is too fine. Matsumoto Rangaku's Shikai Hineka turns Zanpakuto into dust and attack the enemy with billions of dust. In terms of attack method, it is essentially not much different from Byakuya Kuchiki. They all transform Zanpakuto into another order of magnitude to attack. It's just that essentially Matsumoto Rangaku's Shikai is more powerful than Byakuya Kuchiki's. Whether it is Shikai or Bankai by Byakuya Kuchiki, they actually turn Zanpakuto into a small blade. This Sunday, they are still cutting blades. Although there seem to be a lot of them, and each one is small and looks like a petal, it is still too big. For example, Matsumoto Rangaku's Hineka turns into dust. This is no longer a blade, in the ordinary sense. It can perform many incredible operations, which are orders of magnitude greater than Byakuya Kuchiki's. The degree of danger is even more difficult to guard against. It can be said that Hineka is a Zanpakuto with great potential, but Matsumoto Rangaku needs to develop more uses for smoke. At this moment, a large amount of smoke is shrouding Zaraki Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi wasn't hiding from anything. Turn Zanpakuto into smoke. What a pity, what harm can dust do? Matsumoto Rangaku smiled, really? After the smoke enveloped Zaraki Kenpachi, Matsumoto Rangaku gently waved the hilt of the knife in his hand. In an instant, a bloody slash appeared on Zaraki Kenpachi's arm. As long as someone is enveloped in the smoke and dust, if I gently wave the handle of the knife, the dust can turn into a sharp blade and cut the opponent's body. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at the wound on his arm, but his face still showed no excitement. It's good. You can actually hurt me, which means your Reiatsu is close to the captain level. It's just that this alone can't defeat me. The next moment, Zaraki Kenpachi rushed forward with a sword and slashed Matsumoto Rangaku's body. Puff. As blood splattered, Matsumoto Rangaku slowly fell. Zaraki Kenpachi is too fast to dodge. It's over. Zaraki Kenpachi shook the blood from the tip of the knife. However, at this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku, who was lying on the ground, smiled and said, "Really?" Then she waved the knife handle in her hand lightly. The next moment, Zaraki Kenpachi's pupils shrank. It actually felt like there were knives cutting open his abdomen, nose, and throat. He quickly punched himself in the stomach. Puff. Zaraki Kenpachi spat out a mouthful of blood. That mouthful of blood was mixed with a lot of invisible dust. Matsumoto Rangaku lay on the ground and said, "Hineka just turned into dust, entered your body along with your breathing, and then turned into a blade, cutting your body from the body. I know that I am definitely not your opponent in a head-on duel. But this is what Hineka can do, use my strength to defeat your weakness. Although you are powerful, your nasal cavity, throat, esophagus, stomach, none of these can be as hard as steel. So, you lose." Next moment, a large amount of dust turned into blades and erupted from Zaraki Kenpachi's body. In an instant, Zaraki Kenpachi had a lot of bloodline on his body. Plop. Zaraki Kenpachi fell to his knees. However, he did not show any signs of depression, but instead was full of excitement. As a vice captain, being able to push me to this point is considered qualified. Even though he was covered in injuries, he stood up slowly, as if he didn't know the pain at all. No, he does know these pains and feels them clearly. And, really enjoying the pain. You have no idea that the battles I have experienced are far beyond your imagination. Maybe your moves are really strong, but in my life, I have encountered life and death dangers hundreds of times. If you can reach captain level Reiatsu, maybe this move can really defeat me, but now, you are still too weak. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at Matsumoto Rangaku, who lost his fighting power and walked slowly towards the outside. There was no longer any pleasure for him to stay here. Matsumoto Rangaku spat out a mouthful of blood, and the surrounding members of the 4th Division immediately came to treat her. However, before the light of treatment fell on Matsumoto Rangaku, they were surprised to find that Matsumoto Rangaku's wounds were being repaired bit by bit. With Matsumoto Rangaku felt warm in his belly. The Reiatsu that far surpassed his own had not only improved his spiritual power level, but also hid a lot of power, hidden in every spiritual child. After experiencing the battle at this moment, those powers were stimulated, which not only restored her injuries, but even made her strength even higher. Matsumoto Rangaku put his hands on the ground and stood up diagonally, feeling deeply shocked. Chen, is your Reiatsu so terrifying? What state are you in? How high are you standing? At this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku couldn't see through Chen at all. Originally, in her eyes, it was like the clear hands of a student. But at this moment, Chen seemed to be enveloped by Hineka in her impression, unable to see his figure clearly. After Zaraki Kenpachi came out of the 11th division, Kusajishi Yakiru also jumped out and lay behind him, grabbing his clothes with both hands. Although she had just seen Zaraki Kenpachi being injured, she did not stop him because she understood Zaraki Kenpachi's heart and knew that Zaraki Kenpachi longed for and enjoyed fighting. Aegean, Did you have fun just now? Zaraki Kenpachi shook his head, it's not fun enough. At this moment, Kusajishi Yakiru, who was standing on Zaraki Kenpachi, had a higher view. It seems that I saw some figure in the distance. Aegean, look quickly, is that man wearing the clothes of Taoist Dewey? Could it be said that they are big Kido heads? Zaraki Kenpachi looked in the direction pointed by Kusajishi Yakiru. Sure enough, I saw Su Chen and Aizen Sosuke. The first thing I saw when I saw Su Chen was the Kido clothes he was wearing. Then I saw 3 knives hanging on his waist. I couldn't help but be a little curious, I've never seen a person with 3 knives hanging. Let's go and have a look. After the 2 people got close, Kusajishi Yakiru couldn't help but said, huh. This seems to be the Su Chen who has seen the portrait before. The 2 of them had asked about Su Chen's appearance when they were at the Spiritual Arts Academy. To put it simply, he was extremely handsome. He could be recognized at first sight, as if he stood out from the crowd, very obvious. So after seeing Su Chen now, Kusajishi Yakiru recognized it immediately. So Zaraki Kenpachi asked Kusajishi Yakiru to stay aside and jumped over himself. Finally see you, Su Chen. Seeing Zaraki Kenpachi, Su Chen said calmly, oh, do you know me? Of course I know you. You are also from Zaraki district, right? It's just that I don't seem to have been in Zaraki district for a long time, and I don't seem to be infected with the madness of Zaraki district. Come on, fight with me. Both of us are from the Zaraki district. We want to decide who is the strongest person in the greater district. At this time, Su Chen looked into the distance. There Matsumoto Rangaku is coming quickly Shunpo. And after seeing the confrontation between Su Chen and Zaraki Kenpachi, Matsumoto Rangaku felt tight and put a fist on his heart. Although he already knew that Su Chen's strength might not be what he seemed on the surface, if the opponent was Zaraki with a monster like Kenpachi, does Su Chen have any chance of winning? Although Matsumoto Rangaku's injuries have been cured by the Reiatsu he left behind. But after seeing this scene, I quickly understood what had just happened. I'm afraid it was Zaraki Kenpachi who injured Matsumoto Rangaku. This made him narrow his eyes as he didn't have Luba to fight with him. There was a hint of danger in his eyes. Have you ever felt what death feels like? What? Zaraki Kenpachi was still confused. Su Chen's figure has come behind him, sheathing his sword. Aizen Sosuke was shocked. No one else could see clearly at that moment, but he saw it. Zaraki Kenpachi's body seemed to suddenly pause and froze on the spot. Standing aside, Kusajishi Yakiru was still wondering, Aiken, why are you not moving? However, her words have not yet finished. A stream of blood suddenly erupted from Zaraki Kenpachi's body. Everything around him seemed to be plunged into deep darkness, and Zaraki Kenpachi's body collapsed to the ground. Instant kill. Everyone was stunned. He didn't even see clearly how Su Chen took action. At that moment, did Su Chen draw the knife? Eyes Nanao swallowed and hugged Su Chen's clothes tightly. Did Su Chen draw the knife at that moment just now? But why didn't he even see the light of the sword? I didn't even see the action of drawing the knife. Not even a sound was heard. Just now. In the end what happened? Su Chen was obviously in front of Zaraki Kenpachi, but suddenly he was behind him. Then Zaraki Kenpachi's body burst out with blood, and then the monster like him collapsed. Did Su Chen defeat Zaraki Kenpachi with a single blow? How can it be? How could it be possible to defeat him with just one blow? At this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku was even more shocked when he saw this scene. What? Su Chen actually killed Zaraki Kenpachi with one blow. You know, Zaraki Kenpachi is the captain of Team 11. The 11th division is also the combat division of the Gotei 13th division. Everyone in the squad can be said to be battle crazy and experienced in hundreds of battles. Su Chen actually killed the captain of Team 11 with a single blow. Is this Su Chen's true strength? Although Matsumoto Rangaku couldn't believe it, she had obtained Su Chen Reiatsu before and had already guessed about Su Chen's strength, but she never expected that it could be so powerful. Hinamori Momo was even more stunned. When I had a drink with Matsumoto Rangaku before, it was clear that Fangchen was just a student at the Spiritual Arts Academy. Now he can actually kill even captain-level masters with one blow. Quiet. Deathly silence. There was total silence. There was only the sound of the wind blowing, but it made the place feel quiet. The so-called Kenpachi is to seek defeat. As Kenpachi, do you feel like a failure? Call. Zaraki Kenpachi's heart skipped a beat. Slowly got up from the ground. What just happened? It seemed that he had indeed lost a moment. At that moment, did he die? At this moment, Kusajishi Yakiru's face no longer had the previous smiles, but he stood still and looked at Zaraki Kenpachi. Did Aiken just die once? Everyone was very surprised when they saw this scene. Zaraki Kenpachi actually still has the strength to stand up again. At this moment, Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly laughed, but the scar on his chest had disappeared. Da unknown currency A. Ha 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 ha. What a pleasure. It's really satisfying to be able to fight against a strong person like you. Zaraki Kenpachi's mouth Kakuzu grinned to the base of his ears. Is this the failure I have been looking forward to? What a relief. Come again. Zaraki Kenpachi rushed forward with a knife. Su Chen sighed, pulled out the spiritual book. At this moment, the spirit book no longer has a scabbard. It just wraps the ridiculously long bandage around the blade and replaces the scabbard. As Su Chen pulled it out, the bandages fell to the ground in circles, and were blown gently by the wind, bringing up a long tail. Su Chen glanced at Matsumoto Rangaku and said, "Look, this is how Hineka uses it." Croon, Hineka. The next moment, the spirit book turned into countless invisible dust. Su Chen stretched out his hand forward and gently pointed his finger towards Zaraki Kenpachi. This seems to be extremely light and soft, and seems to have no power at all. But the next moment, puff 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 puff. Before Zaraki Kenpachi got close to Su Chen, a large amount of bloodline erupted from his body, directly dyeing his clothes and the ground red. In the end, what happened? If we talk about Su Chen's knife just now, everyone can still see the action of retracting the knife. At this moment, no one could even see the knife being sheathed. Because the dust was too small, it had turned into air, beyond the range that their sight could see. Everyone has no idea what happened. Su Chen pressed down his palm gently and explained. The so-called Hineka is to turn Zanpakuto into countless dusts, the order of which Ruonchao can imagine. So the essence of operating Hineka is to control the spirit. I just turned Zanpakuto into countless dusts that are invisible to the naked eye. Crush Zaraki Kenpachi to pieces. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi's whole body was pierced by countless dust. It can be said that at this time, he is like a net full of holes. The connection between every two souls in the body has been shattered by me. It's like a net, but every connection between the nets has been severed. The fact that he can still maintain his human form and not turn into a pool of blood is the result of his body trying its best to repair himself, let alone trying to stand up. Chapter 79. Because I am Kenpachi, I will lose to Kenpachi. What? Matsumoto Rangaku was deeply shocked. How could my own Hineka be able to perform to such an extent? Can it actually cut off the connection between the spirits? Is this still Hineka? Directly killed Zaraki Kenpachi. Real or fake? She could hardly believe her eyes. What shocked her was, when was Su Chen able to use his Shikai? What happened to that Zanpakuto wrapped with bandages? Aiz Naneo was even more shocked. She also knows a little about family affairs. He owns a divine sword, the Eight Mirror Sword. But she never thought that Su Chen actually had a sword in his hand that could use other people's Zanpakuto abilities. Could it be that that sword was not made by Namaya Wang Yu? Or is it that Su Chen, like her, is actually a descendant of a family that has been passed down from ancient times? The Zanpakuto in his hand is also the same as the Eight Mirror Sword passed down in his family. Is it a family Zanpakuto that has been passed down from ancient times? Aiz Naneo couldn't understand all these doubts. In her eyes, sleepiness was originally just Hinamori Momo said that Su Chen was a student of Junfu Spiritual Arts Academy. But now she didn't dare to think so. If Su Chen was just a student, how could he have such great strength? Could it be that? Is he really the Elder Kido? The scene where he and Hinamori Momo took off his clothes was not. Aiz Naneo hugged the clothes in her hands and couldn't help shyly wanting to bury her face in them, too embarrassed to see anyone. My toes were touching the ground in embarrassment. Hinamori Momo was even more shocked. The mouth was wide enough to hold a bell. When did Su Chen become so strong? Is he a new student at Spiritual Arts Academy? Are freshmen so scary now? Or is it that my understanding is actually wrong? Kusajishi Yakiru opened his eyes even more, the two pink spots on his cheeks looked particularly serious, and he held his hands tightly. With a slight smile on his face. Her concentration at this moment was obviously not like that of an ordinary Shinigami. Ah Jien, can you still stand up? Jien is enjoying this battle happily. She had lost count of how many Zaraki Kenpachi battles she had seen. 26. Ever since he met Zaraki Kenpachi, he had been the one protecting him and killing Rukongai. This is the first time she has seen Jien so excited. Aizen Sosuke saw more than just Hineka's abilities. What's more, Su Chen's control ability is so refined that it reaches the ultimate level. Even if ordinary people knew that there was such an attack method, it would be difficult for them to control such an amount of dust at the same time. But Su Chen was not only able to do it, he was also able to easily target the connection between the two spirit suns. It's not too difficult if you aim at one place. But what Su Chen did was to target the connection of hundreds of millions of spirit suns at the same time. It's like a person controlling hundreds of millions of guns, each of which must hit an ant hundreds of meters away. The difficulty is far beyond what others imagine. This kind of control ability and calculation ability can be called Heaven-Defying. With such power, it is not surprising that Zaraki Kenpachi can be killed instantly. However, under such attacks, Zaraki Kenpachi was still struggling, trying to get up bit by bit. It's a pity that he just got up a little bit, and the spiritual connection in his body was just a little bit, but it was ruthlessly cut off by the endless dust. So Zaraki Kenpachi kept repeating the process of death and resurrection in front of everyone. Zaraki Kenpachi was also very surprised. His consciousness has been wandering in the process of disappearance and recovery. How is this going? Until then he heard intermittent footsteps, because his consciousness could only last for a moment, and would disappear in the next moment, and then recover again. Therefore, the sounds of footsteps that were clearly coherent were intermittent in his ears. At this moment, Su Chen's voice came intermittently. Are you wondering why you keep dying and resurrecting? This is because you are far from reaching your limit now. Did you experience a hard and enjoyable battle before you killed your opponent? Zaraki Kenpachi recalled carefully, and it seemed to be true. Every time he fought, every opponent he encountered, he was just a little stronger than them, not much stronger. That's your problem. Actually, your strength is much more than that. It's just that the opponents you encountered are too weak. Do you know what a Kenpachi is? Do you know what Kenpachi means? Do you know Kenpachi's fate? The so-called Kenpachi is a person who is destined to be defeated by Kenpachi. Keep swinging your sword and keep fighting. Because I am Kenpachi, I will lose to Kenpachi. Since you were born in Rukongai, you have traveled far and wide, and all the people you meet are trash. I'm not even qualified enough to give you a knife test. Then you finally meet someone. A person who can be called an opponent. Quote. The only person you admire. You feel that once you lose her, you will never be able to enjoy fighting again. So you unconsciously sealed your power bit by bit. And every time you experience the death gate, the shackles on your body will be opened bit by bit. Final recovery, your greatest strength. Click, 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 click. Under the attack of Su Chen's endless dust, Zaraki Kenpachi actually stood up little by little, even though he was completely unrecognizable at this moment, and every part of his body was bleeding, as if he was stained by blood like a demon. Interesting. Interesting. Really interesting. I didn't expect that besides Unohana Retsu, there would be someone else who could please me. Quote. Su Chen. Zaraki Kenpachi roared loudly, and for the first time he felt so happy. Such pleasure. Such excitement. Embracing the whole world like this. Such joy. As this, fighting. Zaraki Kenpachi ran towards Su Chen and rushed towards him. Although the steps are staggering, they are still getting closer step by step. D sharp. Su Chen watched Zaraki Kenpachi's movements calmly, seemingly not worried at all. However, when Zaraki Kenpachi's sword was about to reach Su Chen, he still fell. Vaguely he heard a call. Who? Who is calling me? Get out of here. You finally heard my voice. My voice has been longer and closer than anyone else, always watching you. My name is. Zaraki Kenpachi realized that this was his Zanpakuto voice. No wonder he never heard Zanpakuto's voice. It turns out that my strength has been sealed unconsciously. However, just when he heard it clearly, his consciousness had completely collapsed. His physical injuries no longer allowed him to stay awake any longer. His eyes were as heavy as a mountain pressing on them. Hold on for a while longer, you can hear clearly after a while. Thump. Zaraki Kenpachi finally fell in front of Su Chen. Even though he had stretched out his hand long and stretched out the knife. However, the tip of the knife is still out of reach. Looking at Su Chen's figure closing little by little in front of his eyes. Zaraki Kenpachi thought, maybe, the truly strongest person is him. Unohana. If you can fight with him, you will definitely understand my joy. Zaraki Kenpachi closed his eyes. I saw that the road he walked behind was covered with a lot of blood. Even if the body tried its best, it could not touch the corner of Su Chen's clothes. Su Chen looked at the fallen man calmly and looked at the scene in front of him. Kusajishi Yakiru jumped over at this time, bowed 90 degrees to Su Chen and said, Thank you. Thank you for making a GN play so happily. Hinamori Momo hurried over, we need to treat Captain Zaraki quickly. There is so much blood. Su Chen walked up to Aizen Nanao and stretched out her hand, this beautiful lady, can you return my clothes to me? Ah. Of course. Aizen Nanao handed over Kido's long clothes. After Su Chen took some clothes and put them on, he left here with Aizen Sosuke. Night. Division 4. Zaraki Kenpachi woke up on the bed, but still couldn't open his eyes, but he noticed the conversations of the people around him. Next to him is Unohana Retsu, the person he has admired since the beginning. So, can we say what happened now? After seeing Zaraki Kenpachi wake up, Unohana Retsu asked Kusajishi Yakiru, Hinamori Momo and others in front of him. When Kusajishi Yakiru was about to explain, Zaraki Kenpachi opened his eyes. Let me say. Unohana Retsu was already shocked when he saw Zaraki Kenpachi injured so seriously. Who on earth could actually hurt Zaraki Kenpachi like this? No one knows Zaraki Kenpachi's strength better than her. Zaraki Kenpachi had the strength to defeat him thousands of years ago, but now he was defeated so miserably. Who defeated him? What kind of terrifying abilities does it possess? If I fight with him, will I also be able to gain pleasure? Unohana Retsu actually felt a sense of anticipation in his heart. The heart that was obviously already dead was actually looking forward to fighting with someone. Zaraki Kenpachi's chest was panting like a broken bellows, and blood flowed out as his chest rose and fell. Unohana Retsu used Kido to treat him, but Zaraki Kenpachi's injuries were really terrible. Unohana Retsu had never seen someone so seriously injured yet still alive. Almost all the connections between the spirit particles on his body were severed, and it was already a heaven-defying act before the spirit particles dispersed into a ball and dissipated into the atmosphere. If Zaraki Kenpachi hadn't been repairing his own power within his body, his Kaido alone wouldn't be able to cure him. After a long absence, I feel excited again. I could feel that he wasn't using his full strength. It's so exciting. I can feel that after the battle, my strength has recovered a lot. And just came close to realizing Shikai. If I fight him a few more times, I will definitely understand Shikai. I really want to get up now. Zaraki Kenpachi struggled to get up and tried to fight again. Unohana Retsu injected the sedative medicine in his hand into his body, making him sleep peacefully. She didn't expect that one day Zaraki Kenpachi would also meet someone you can't beat. At this moment, Zaraki Kenpachi is obviously no longer the Zaraki Kenpachi who suppressed his strength before. He has completely liberated his own strength, and is even close to surpassing himself 1,000 years ago and realizing Shikai. However, he was defeated by that person in the end. He couldn't even force that person out with all his strength. I wonder if Zaraki has the same despair in his heart as he did back then. He probably wouldn't have it. He's just a guy who enjoys fighting. If you don't fail thousands of times, I'm afraid you won't experience despair. Hinamori Momo couldn't help but ask after seeing it. Is Captain Zaraki okay? It's okay, I just let him sleep for a while. He is too excited and needs some sedatives. Although Zaraki Kenpachi fell asleep, Zaraki Kenpachi's words still echoed deeply in Unohana Retsu's ears. After the treatment, Unohana Retsu walked to the balcony outside and sat in his usual position under the cold moonlight, but he was not in the mood to make tea anymore. Who was he, to be able to make Zaraki so excited? It's been a long time since I saw Zaraki showing such an expression. Can you tell me the name of the person who made Zaraki look like this? Kusajishi Yakiru sat on Zaraki Kenpachi's bed, shaking his legs, as if he was not worried about a sword's death at all, because he knew that if he could die in the hands of a strong man. It is a happy thing for a GN, he smiled and said. His name is Su Chen, Su Chen's Su, Su Chen's Chen. Unohana Retsu's pupils shrank. Su Chen. Could it be that he was the Su Chen whom he met at Spiritual Arts Academy before? Isn't he good at Kaido? Could it be that Kaido is just part of who he is? What he's really good at is fighting. However, the result of this attack should not be caused by a knife. Presumably something Shikai Bankai. Originally, Unohana Retsu thought that Zaraki Kenpachi was the limit that he could encounter in this life. I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful person who could defeat Zaraki Kenpachi. I really want to fight him right now. Just then, Katetsu Aizen walked over. Captain, what are you thinking about? However, the moment Unohana Retsu raised his head, Katetsu Aizen seemed to be in a trance. She seemed to see a smile on Unohana Retsu's face. It was a smile that looked a bit human, a bit scary, as if everyone who looked at her had fallen into an ice cellar. But fortunately, the feeling disappeared in just a moment. Is it my own illusion? Unconsciously, Katetsu Aizen found that his backside was soaked. Yongyan, what's the matter? Unohana Retsu smiled softly. Ah, Captain, would you like some tea? Katetsu Aizen held a teapot in his hand. Unohana Retsu shook his head. No need, but I would like to invite someone over for tea. Who do you want to invite? Su Chen. I believe he will like the tea I made for him. Chapter 80 Hueco Mundo Espada, the meeting of the five nobles. If the present world and soul society are two worlds, then the bridge connecting the two worlds is called a boundary. Beyond the boundary, there is endless darkness. But darkness is not nothingness. In the darkness, there is a world suspended in it, Hueco Mundo. The ground in Hueco Mundo looks even more miserable than Rukongai. Everywhere you look there is sand of spirit children. These spirit sun sands are actually the result of the ancient Manos Grande who was killed by the Spirit King 110,000 years ago. This kind of killing is not the purification of sins, but a complete death. The spirit sun sand is paved with a layer of it. Another layer that seems to have no end. I don't know how many ancient Manos Grande died before the entire world could be covered. Therefore, the concentration of spirit seeds in the air of Hueco Mundo is much higher than that of Soul Society, so the spirits here do not need to drink water, just breathing the wife in the breath is enough to survive. Looking around, there were only some white trees, not a single source of water, not to mention anything edible. Everything seemed dead and void. Beneath the sands of souls lies the forest of Manos Grande. Many Manos Grande live in it. The dead trees on the sand of spirit suns are just the exposed tops of the huge trees growing in the Manos Grande forest. And in the center of the sand of spirit suns, it is a palace of kings, Zai Palace. At this moment, the sky curtain was torn like a thin cloth, and a figure wearing white clothes and carrying Zanpakuto stepped out confidently. The eyes under the black-rimmed glasses were full of the feeling of being in control. Following Aizen Sosuke was a narrow-eyed Shinigami with a sinister-looking smile on his face. Hueco Mundo Espada is here to greet you. Welcome, Lord Aizen. Aizen Sosuke nodded slightly. After several people entered Zai Palace, Aizen Sosuke sat on the throne. Originally, This throne belonged to the king of Hueco Mundo, Baragan Luzenbairn, and it was also the Vasto Lord level Manos Grande. Manos Grande's levels are divided into Jillian, Adjukas, and Vasto Lord, which become stronger in order. From the appearance, Baragan Luzenbairn is a white-headed old man, extremely tall, with a crown on his head and a huge golden compass around his waist. He is dressed like an emperor. Unfortunately, after Aizen Sosuke defeated him, he became the second Espada, representing the death method of aging. I wonder what kind of mentality he is feeling when he is watching Aizen Sosuke sitting on the throne of the king of Hueco Mundo below. Aizen Sosuke's eyes are completely different from when he was in Soul Society, full of aloof indifference. At this moment, Ulquiorra Cipher, the fourth Espada, spoke out. Lord Aizen, we have prepared it as per your request. Ulquiorra may seem slender and frail, but she possesses unimaginable strength and even has the ability to return to the sword in the second stage. His whole body was wrapped in a white tight-fitting garment, which outlined his slender figure. The exposed skin on the face and hands showed a pale color, which was actually whiter than the white clothes they were wearing. It was even so white that some people looked like nothingness. His expression is also indifferent, as if nothing in the world can make him fluctuate. What he symbolizes is the virtual light, way of death. The pupils are green, and there are two slender green Arankar lines hanging from the bottom of the two green pupils, which look like tear stains at first glance. He has short black hair, and his mask as Arankar is located on the left half of his head, in the shape of a horned helmet, extending in layers to his shoulders. Aizen Sosuke glanced at Ulquiorra. Well done. We came to an experimental platform, where a virtual creature was lying at the moment. Aizen Sosuke took out the complete form of Hogyoku. As soon as Hogyoku took action, Espada's face and pupils couldn't help but shrink. Even though it was not the first time they saw Hogyoku in his complete body still shocked them. The extremely terrifying power seemed to appear at any time. They can all be destroyed. At any time, Aizen Sosuke uses the power of Hogyoku to evolve the hollow on the experimental bench. After the smoke of evolution dissipated, a hollow with yellow hair, naked body and a dark emptiness on his chest was revealed. Aizen Sosuke looked at him calmly and named him. Your name is Wandawise Margera. The yellow-haired virtual man's eyes were dull, as if he had lost his language, thinking, and ideas. He repeated blankly, Wandawise. Ulquiorra put one hand in his pocket and glanced at Wandawise. In this way, you already have the trump card to deal with Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, and the complete Hogyoku is also ready. Espada, are at your disposal at any time. Mission, always ready to fight Soul Society. Espada 6, Grimjow Jagerjaquez laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, we already have such power, we are destined to become the king of the world. I can't wait to fight against those Shinigami. Grimjow has light blue broken hair, sky blue eyes, a few bangs hanging in front of his forehead, lake green eyeshadow lines, and a strong body. The Arankar mask is arranged in the shape of teeth and is attached to the right cheek, like the teeth of a shark, revealing a desire for cruelty and destruction, and the way of death he symbolizes is destruction. The 6 inches tattoo representing the sixth blade is located on the lower right side of the lower back, and the empty hole is located on the abdomen. It is usual to open the zipper of the top, exposing the chest and abdomen, and roll up the waist and long sleeves to the height of the elbow. Aizen Sosuke didn't say anything after hearing Grimjow's words, and said calmly, no, it's not the time to launch an attack yet. Why? Grimjow spread his hands in confusion, and the crazy smile on his face was stagnant. He didn't understand why he had to exercise restraint even though he had such powerful power. He should enjoy the battle more. Aizen Sosuke said, before the war begins, I need to ask someone for his opinion, if he is willing to be our military advisor. Xiao and others are truly invincible. What? Grimjow opened his mouth in an exaggerated manner. Want to ask someone for their opinion? Who to ask? Who deserves to be the king of Hueco Mundo? Aizen Sosuke has to ask his opinion. Do his opinions have that much influence on Aizen Sosuke? Can his few words sway the outcome of the battle between Espada and Gote 13? Who is this person? What's the identity again? Shinigami? Or human? Ulquiorra also concentrated. Aizen Sosuke had the power to defeat Baragan, the king of Hueco Mundo, even before he achieved the full form of Hogyoku. Now that Hogyoku has gained a complete form, he is even able to create the Wang Inwei that seal Ryujin Jaka. With such a powerful force, it should be almost invincible. Ulquiorra could not guess who could make Aizen Sosuke treat him so seriously. At this moment, Ichimaru Jin smiled and said, hey, you have never seen that person's strength. His Zanpakuto alone is enough to give you a headache. I don't dare to fight him. I'm afraid only Aizen can dare to fight him. When Grimjow heard this, a crazy smile appeared in his cruel blue eyes, and the corners of his grinned mouth were so deep that he looked very scary. Interesting. I really want to fight with such a person. What's his name? Aizen Sosuke glanced at Grimjow, as if he could see through all of Grimjow's thoughts. You are no match for him. Stay in your own palace and don't make trouble everywhere. Hueco Mundo Espada has its own palace in Zai Palace, as well as its own subordinate officers, which looks similar to Gote 13. Grimjow didn't respond, and he didn't know if he heard it. Aizen Sosuke continued. Besides, I don't need your attention Ulquiorra alone. Ulquiorra put one hand in his pocket and asked, who? His tone was light, just like the nothingness itself, it seemed to have no meaning. But there was a hint of curiosity in that vacuous tone. Apart from the so-called strategist, is there anyone else worthy of Aizen Sosuke's attention? That is the current Kurosaki Ichigo, located in Karakura town. You can learn about him with a little research. Although his strength may not be very strong at the moment, there is no doubt that his potential is very strong. If it is judged that he will pose a threat to me, then get rid of him. Ulquiorra put her right palm on her chest, lowered her head and said respectfully, as commanded. Soul Society, hidden underground. A meeting of the 5 nobles was held here. Because the birth and order of Soul Society were formulated by the 5 nobles. Therefore, the fundamental rulers of Soul Society are the 5 nobles. The meeting of the 5 nobles is actually the meeting that determines the future direction and destiny of Soul Society. This meeting has been held regularly since the existence of the top 5 nobles in 110,000 years. The power of the 5 noble councils exceeds that of the Central 46. In view of the situation of the Soul King, they can be said to be the rulers with the highest power in the entire 3 realms. However, since the Shiba family was expelled, only 4 nobles are left in the meeting of the 5 nobles. After the usual nonsense, after discussing some decisions, the patriarch of the Tsunayashiro family said something. I received a report from the secret guard that made me a little worried. The patriarch of the Shihuan family said, oh, what else can worry you? The conference room was very dark, with only one light in the middle. The bodies of the elders of the major families were hidden in the deep darkness, with only pairs of decayed hands exposed. Yesterday outside the 11th division, Zaraki Kenpachi fought against the elder Kido. Hearing what the elder of the Tsunayashiro family said, the elder of the Kuchiki family was a little surprised and said, what's going on? Isn't the position of the elder Kido always vacant? A new Chief Kido took office yesterday. Why don't we know about the appointment of Chief Kido? When did the 46th chamber act beyond our nobles? Have you even forgotten the most basic rules? The elder of the Kuchiki family said with some dissatisfaction. Perhaps room 46 has a different intention. HMPH, if those guys dare to have different intentions, just kill them and replace them. Maybe it's just that room 46 forgot to tell us. But I still need to check room 46 to see if something happened. Back to the subject, I didn't expect that Captain Kido would be able to use the Shikai, the vice captain of the 10th division. What? The ability to use other people's Zanpakuto, shouldn't it be the exclusive ability of the Zanpakuto of your Tsunayashiro family? Yuan, the patriarch of the Tsunayashiro family, sneered, hey, who knows what the abilities of the new Kido chief Zanpakuto are? It is said that he graduated after only enrolling for a few days. If such a genius is dissatisfied with our nobles it seems like he hasn't realized Bankai yet. A big Kido without Bankai. Are you worried too, sir? Let's do this. I'll go to the Great Spirit Book corridor to see what this person's Bankai ability is. If he's a threat to us, I'll find a way to get rid of him. Tsunaya said. The other nobles had no objections to this point and adjourned the meeting. At this moment Aizen Sosuke returns to Soul Society. After going to the Kido crowd, Chen was not found. And a villa appeared on the hillside not far from Kido's residence. Regarding the villa, Sha Shengwubu explained. It seems to be a villa built by Kido, the elder Kido. The elder Kido was amazed at his ability to build a villa out of thin air. Aizen Sosuke nodded and said that after knowing it, he rushed towards Shunpo, the villa on the mountainside. When you get close to that area, you can still feel that you have passed through a layer of enchantment. It seems that Chen should have discovered him a long time ago. All the decorations in the villa look very luxurious, as if they were owned by rich people in this world. Chen was sitting on the balcony, making tea in the evening breeze. Zongji, you're here, come over and have some tea. Aizen Sosuke walked to sit opposite Chen with an expressionless expression. At this time, Matsumoto Rangaku, who was wearing a nude outfit, also came over and poured the hot water in his hand into the tea set. After Chen returned to the rented house, she took the things in the room into her inner world. Then he took Matsumoto Rangaku to a mountain near the Kido people, built a villa using spirit sun control, and then simply decorated it. When I was about to make tea, I saw Aizen Sosuke. Zongsu, can I have something to discuss? You should rest first. Matsumoto Rangaku nodded, put down the hot water bottle in his hand, and retreated. Matsumoto Rangaku was really surprised at first. He didn't expect Chen to become the great Kido Changming. And is also able to use his own Shikai. And later I saw that Chen was able to make objects disappear out of thin air and then appear out of thin air. Immediately afterwards, he used the spirit to condense a villa. Matsumoto Rangaku didn't know where to start asking about this series of things. Then Chen snapped his fingers, and a barrier was formed around the two of them, preventing the sound from spreading. Zongji came to see me so late, he probably came here not just for tea. Chen smiled faintly and slowly brewed tea. Although Aizen Sosuke looked calm, his words were shocking. Of course not, I'm here to ask you, if I start rebelling against Soul Society now, how likely do you think I will win?